Chapter 1485. Cough, cough, cough. A dry cough was heard, continuously coughing, interrupting their tender feelings. Yiqing Luo immediately opened her eyes and looked towards the direction of the sound, only to see Gui Wu standing by the side with a gloomy face. And Zhou Mo was also carrying Kitty Li, standing by Gui Wu's side. Zhou Mo was the one who had coughed earlier. Gui Wu Master. Instructor Zhou. In front of these seniors, wantonly showing off their affection and what not, it was quite embarrassing to think about it. Yiqing Luo quietly raised her eyes and stared at Dmo Xian resentfully. It was all his fault. He flirted with her without saying a word, and he even flirted with her more and more skillfully, causing her pink bubbles to swell up, forgetting that there were other people around. Gui Wu's gaze only lightly swept past Dmo Xian. The expression on his face was still as cold as ice. This gaze, this invisible aura that emanated from it. It really made Yiqing Luo's back turn cold. She rubbed the goosebumps on her arm. Gui Wu Master, if you have anything to say, please say it directly. This creepy gaze. I will have nightmares. Gui Wu coldly glanced at her. Student Yiqing Luo, you have seriously violated the team's rules, disobeyed the instructor's orders, and even created such a big commotion affecting the other students' training. Don't you have anything to say? His questions came one after another, each more forceful than the last. Wu. Zhou Mo called out, stopping Gui Wu. Forget it, look at Yiqing Luo's body, there are so many wounds, for the sake of the Overlord, just let it go. Overlord? Hearing this name, Instructor Luo and Instructor Li's gaze immediately shifted from Mu Qiqi to her. And when they heard these 4 words, Gui Wu's brows also twitched a few times. The few of them fixed their sights on Yiqing Luo's side, on that tall figure with an imposing appearance, emitting a majestic aura from the man. Purple robe billowed, peerless. This was the legendary figure in the Nirvana realm. Overlord. Dmo Xian? The 2 instructors were completely stunned. From the moment they rushed here, they had already noticed this dazzling man. Only, seeing how close Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian were, anyone with a discerning eye could see their relationship. Naturally, he would not take the initiative to ask about Dmo Xian's identity. Then, their attention was focused on Qiqi. Unexpectedly, this man was the Overlord. My training must be carried out according to my rules. Gui Wu shot a glance at Dmo Xian as he coldly said, if you're wrong, then you should accept the punishment. I believe the Overlord wouldn't have any objections, right? Dmo Xian frowned slightly. The ghost martial artist had an obvious hostility towards him. He didn't know where this hostility came from. Before he could open his mouth, the young girl in his embrace had already raised her eyes to meet Gui Wu's. Resolutely and indifferently, she said, what Master Gui Wu said is correct. I'm the one who broke the rules of the group and delayed everyone's special training. I should accept my punishment. Gui Wu coldly snorted, before turning around and walking in the direction of the exit. That youthful and mature face did not look out of place at all. Zhou Mo promptly hugged the person in his arms and followed the footsteps of Gui Wu. Xian, I have to go back first. Yiqing Luo snuggled back into Dmo Xian's arms, raised her eyes and stared deeply at Dmo Xian's face. Chapter 1486. Because of her, Dmo Xian had quarreled with the Imperial Palace's old granny until both parties were unhappy. She didn't know if the Imperial Palace's old granny would do anything that would harm Dmo Xian's interests. At this moment, Dmo Xian had to rush back to the Imperial Palace to take charge. Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo resisted the urge to ask Dmo Xian to stay. Her charming eyes curved into a narrow arc. Xian, I'll leave with the instructors first. Saying that, she loosened her arms around Dmo Xian's waist. Dmo Xian suddenly stretched out his hand and pressed her arm. We haven't seen each other for so long, don't you miss me? Think. How could he not think about it? As the saying goes, a day apart feels like 3 years. She and Dmo Xian had not seen each other for a few days. Moreover, every time they met, they couldn't stay close to each other for a while and had to separate. He had matters to deal with in the imperial palace. She, on the other hand, had to work hard to grow and create better opportunities for herself and her brothers. I miss you. I miss you so much. Yiqing Luo concealed the shyness in her heart. Her eyes were sincere as she gazed at the man's face. But, no matter how I think, now is not the time to be willful. She once again took the initiative to hug him tightly. She threw herself completely into Dmo Xian's arms. Ah Xian, I don't want to be your burden. Yiqing Luo's voice in his arms sounded dull. Dmo Xuanhuan hugged her tightly. You've never been my burden. The reason why something like this happened today, and why the Imperial Palace's granny came to find me, is because I'm not strong enough to make her recognize me as the woman worthy of you. If I can travel alongside you, I can have a background that can rival yours. No matter how much the old woman in the Imperial Palace loves wind chimes, she will definitely not attack me, and she will not let you sink into the problem between me and the old woman. Yiqing Luo slowly shook her head. Yiqing Luo could never forget it. When Dmo Xian looked at the Imperial Palace's old grandma, his eyes were filled with sorrow and disappointment. She did not want to put Dmo Xian in a difficult position, but it still made Dmo Xian break off relations with the Imperial Palace's old granny because of her. To Dmo Xian, the Imperial Palace's granny, who had brought him up, was equivalent to an elder. If you put yourself in his shoes, if it was Long Yunzhan or Yan Xiaoyi or the other brothers who hurt Dmo Xian, and could she, for Dmo Xian, break off all relations with her brothers? Just thinking about it, Yiqing Luo could feel the pain and hesitation mixed within. Dmo Xian did not hesitate to stand on her side and spoke out to defend her. He even gave the Imperial Palace's old granny a warning. This was the depth of his love for her. How could he be so decisive and without hesitation? Lil Luo'er. Dmo Xian sighed softly. You're always able to see through what I'm thinking about with just one look. Yiqing Luo smiled as she looked at him. Ah Xian, I will always be thinking of you. Dmo Xian's glimmering peach blossom eyes were filled with traces of sentiments. He held Yiqing Luo tightly as he gently planted a kiss on her lip. Yiqing Luo closed her eyes as a tranquil smile appeared on her face. Whoosh, who are you? Suddenly, there was a faint sound of something tearing through the air. She heard Gui Wu and Zhou Mo's vigilant voices suddenly rang. Their lips had just touched for a few breaths' time when the two of them immediately separated and looked towards the direction of the sound. Raising their eyes, they saw a figure flying over. Yiqing Luo only had time to see an afterimage floating past. But in an instant, it had already stopped not too far away from Yiqing Luo. A crimson luxurious robe, like a fire phoenix descending. His jet-black long hair was held in place by a wooden hairpin, extremely casual. That cold and hard face, that sharp gaze, seemed to be sealed in ice for thousands of miles. The minute Yiqing Luo met that pair of eyes, she felt a gush of cold air rising from her heart. Chapter 1487. Zhu Wu Xian. Why was he here? This was the Blaze Lair. His motive for coming here was because of the so-called divine object? Or, for her? Recalling the past, Zhu Wu Xian had always treated her as the person he knew, and tried all sorts of ways to probe her. Yiqing Luo felt that the reason why Zhu Wu Xian would appear here, it might be the latter. When Dmo Xian saw Zhu Wu Xian, his expression sunk. The pair of smiling eyes suddenly released an extremely cold chill at this moment. At this moment, his entire being gave off an arrogant and valiant aura. He tightened his grip around Yiqing Luo's waist as his icy cold peach blossom eyes looked coldly at Zhu Wu Xian. I'd not expected the rumors of the Blaze Lair to be so alluring that even Death God Castle's Castle Lord has come personally. Zhu Wu Xian ignored Dmo Xian's words. His gaze fell onto the arm on Yiqing Luo's waist without blinking. That alluring crimson robe was unable to conceal the chilly air that he was emitting. Diemo Xian tightened his grip. Yiqing Luo nestled in Diemo Xian's arms, and it could be said that the two men's gazes intersected. She could even clearly see the sparks from the two men's eyes. It crackled and flickered with electricity. Why was this scene a little strange? The fortunate thing was, Gui Wu brought General Luo and Instructor Li over. When the two instructors heard the way Diemo Xian addressed Zhu Wu Xian, their faces were filled with astonishment as they looked at Zhu Wu Xian in shock. Even Instructor Li, who had always had a fiery temper and was extremely impatient towards everything, was unable to calm his agitated little heart at this moment. Death God Castle's Castle Lord? Instructor Luo took a few huge steps and returned to Yiqing Luo's side as he stared at Zhu Wu Xian and sized him up. I know your name, Master Gui Wu had mentioned you before. Instructor Luo wasn't affected by the chilly air that was emitted from Zhu Wu Xian as he was still in high spirit. Little Luo. Gui Wu's icy cold voice called out to the agitated Instructor Luo. Instructor Luo then reacted as he rubbed his head and laughed awkwardly. Young Master Zhu, I'm so sorry. I'm a burly man, and when I saw someone who was praised by Master Gui Wu, I got excited. Zhu Wu Xian took some time before he slowly shifted his gaze onto Instructor Luo. That extraordinarily handsome face was so beautiful that it was intoxicating. However, the cold aura emitted from those eyes still made people shudder. General Luo's smile froze. His hand that was rubbing his head also froze. Just when everyone thought that Zhu Wuxin wouldn't speak, they heard his cold voice ring out. It's fine. Instructor Luo's eyes widened and his jaw dropped. Didn't they all say, this Death God Castle Lord was especially hard to approach? No matter who spoke to him, it was an honor to be able to reply to him once out of 10 sentences. He actually responded to her. Instructor Luo stood rooted to the ground, unable to come back to his senses. Yiqing Luo secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Instructor Luo was there. Only then did the strange atmosphere dissipate. For some reason, Diemo Xian and Chu Wu Xian were facing off. There was an inexplicable feeling that they were going to fight each other at any moment. Thinking of the way Zhu Wuxin looked at her, repeating it over and over again, she forgot about his persistence. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but shiver. It was better to maintain a distance from Zhu Wuxin. But it was too early for Yiqing Luo to be assured. Chapter 1488. Yiqing Luo's head was filled with question marks. What on earth was going on? Why did it sound like there was a feeling of jealousy? Was it a misperception? Instructor Luo was apparently stunned by Diemo Xian's words. After some time, he stuttered as he shook his head. Of course not. Overlord is the #1 strongest person in Nirvana realm. Of course I'm excited to see you. Overlord's charm is naturally unparalleled. Before he could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by a chilly voice. Instructor Luo is saying that I'm not as good as him? Instructor Luo's face immediately turned pale. He looked at the both of them with a tearless face. Could he apply to shut his mouth? At this moment, no matter how slow the person was, he could clearly feel the undercurrent between Chu Wu Xian and Diemo Xian was surging violently. Instructor Luo was extremely regretful. Why couldn't he keep his composure, and had to rush up to be implicated? Death God Castle's Castle Lord, are you threatening him and going against your conscience? Diemo Xian squinted his eyes as his lips curled in ridicule. Isn't the Overlord using his own status to force Instructor Luo to praise you? Zhu Wu Xian refused to be outdone as his cold voice was like thin ice. 4 pairs of eyes met and once again, it set off a crackling current. Instructor Luo looked left and right. He discovered that the both of them were staring at each other, with no intention of shifting their eyes away. He shrunk his neck as he retreated step by step towards Ghost Marshal's direction. He hadn't even taken a step. He saw the both of them turning their heads at the same time as they stared at Instructor Luo, Instructor Luo, what you said earlier, is it from the bottom of your heart? They spoke almost at the same time. That majestic aura wrapped Instructor Luo into a ball. Instructor Luo's legs turned into jelly as he retreated several steps before he managed to stabilize himself. What are the both of you doing? Instructor Luo didn't offend you. Yiqing Luo, who couldn't take it anymore, immediately stretched out her hand and grabbed Diamo Xian's arm as she pulled him to her side. Following that, she spoke to Instructor Luo. Instructor Luo, don't bother about these two. Let them continue looking at each other with tender feelings. You guys leave first, I'll rush over immediately. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, Instructor Luo immediately retracted his body and dashed towards Ghost Marshal's direction as though he was escaping. The aura of these two young men. His old bones really couldn't take it anymore. And when the four eyes met, the two of them who were releasing electric current heard Yiqing Luo's adjective. The two expressionless faces twitched a few times at the same time. Affectionate? What the hell? Since when were they so affectionate? Weren't they very handsome, cool, and crazy, using their own auras to suppress their opponents? Why was it that in Yiqing Luo's eyes, it became filled with tender feelings? This phrase successfully made the two men avert their gazes. No one was willing to exchange glances with the other. Yiqing Luo suddenly felt tired as she tugged Diamo Xian's arm. That? Young Master Zhu should have something important to do in the blazing flame nest, so we'll make a move first. As he spoke, he turned around to leave. However, before she could take a step, Zhu Wu Xian's figure flashed as he stood in front of Yiqing Luo. His icy cold gaze stared coldly at Yiqing Luo and Diamo Xian's interlocked hands as his gaze turned gloomy. I indeed have something important to do. Then, Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased. Zhu Wu Xian's gaze made her inexplicably annoyed. Somehow it felt as though a husband who caught his wife had caught his wife together with another man's gaze. Yiqing Luo suppressed the unhappiness in her heart as she stabilized her state of mind. Then we shall not disturb young Master Zhu, please move aside. Chapter 1489. Zhu Wuxin's cold voice enunciated each word clearly. That pair of frosty gaze was like a sharp knife, slicing Yiqing Luo's body. This tone, this expression, no matter how he looked at it, it didn't seem like it was a romantic statement. However, when it came to Zhu Wuxin, these were indeed words of love. Yiqing Luo's face immediately turned pale. Subconsciously, he raised his head to look at Diamo Xian's expression. But he saw Diamo Xian's expression was calm as he lifted his eyelids in a carefree manner. His lips twitched disapprovingly. Young Master Zhu, taking liberties with this lord's woman in front of this lord, are you declaring war with this lord? Yes. His voice was calm and emotionless. That one word stirred up thousands of waves. Even Instructor Luo and the others who were watching from the side could not help but gasp. The gazes they shot towards Yiqing Luo were no longer simple shock and astonishment. It was an unconcealable admiration. This girl, he actually made Lord Di Zun and the Death God Castle's castle master fight against each other. He even declared war in public. Femme fatale. Femme fatale. What a pity. Lil Luo is destined to only be this lord's woman. Diamo Xian's gaze suddenly turned cold as his long arm pulled Yiqing Luo into his embrace. You have no chance. Zhu Wuxin's usually calm eyes finally showed a trace of change. His eyes flickered a few times. The man is unmarried, the woman is unmarried, I naturally have a chance. What's more, if she remembers me, the one who doesn't have a chance is you. The expression on Diamo Xian's face was still that calm. He had an expression that said, no matter what you say, Lil Luo is my woman. But Yiqing Luo could feel it. Diamo Xian at this moment, because of Zhu Wuxin's words, his heart surged like raging waves. Especially when Diamo Xian glanced at her from the corner of his eye, it made Yiqing Luo's back shiver. She nestled in his arms. Her small hands kept caressing his chest. She really wanted to shout out that she was innocent. She didn't remember any past between her and Zhu Wu Exin. Zhu Wuxin's words made it sound as if she had once had some unforgettable love with him. After all, Xia was only 15 years old. Her memory became clearer when she was about 3 or 4 years old. In his memories, he was absolutely certain that there was no such person as Zhu Wuxin. Could it be that they had met before they were 3 or 4 years old? When they were so young, who could remember it? Cough, cough, cough. The atmosphere between these two people was so tense that the air was about to condense into ice. As the main character of the confrontation, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but let out a dry cough to break the silence. That, young Master Zhu, I think you've recognized the wrong person. I'm really not the person you're looking for. Yiqing Luo looked at Zhu Wu Xian and said. You are, Zhu Wu Xian said confidently. No one knew where he got his confidence from. Yiqing Luo replied helplessly, I've never lost my memories. I remember everything that happened in the past 10 years clearly. Zhu Wuxin remained silent. Only using that pair of sharp eyes, he stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and suppressed the irritation in her heart. Zhu Wuxin's strength was unfathomable. She might not be Zhu Wuxin's match. Moreover, if she fought with Zhu Wuxin probably wouldn't retaliate. If Dmo Xian saw this, he would probably assume that she and Zhu Wuxin had a female relationship. Dmo Xian looked at Yiqing Luo's expression as his eyes turned slightly chilly. Suddenly, he hooked the young lady in his arms and tipped his toes, bringing Yiqing Luo along as they floated in mid-air. Chapter 1490. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo felt that the profound qi on Dmo Xian's body continued to surge. Dmo Xian lowered his eyes and took a look at her. The moment he looked at Yiqing Luo, his gaze was filled with adoration. He curled his lips and said softly, Don't worry, it'll be over soon. After saying that, he raised his eyes, and his gaze shot out like a sharp blade. The hurricane swirled up sand and gravel into the air. His jet-black hair fluttered on his shoulders as he bared his fangs and claws. Zhu Wuxin also did not say a word, and did not retreat even half a step. With a flick of his sleeve, a strong gust of wind blew against his loose crimson robe, causing it to flutter loudly. The two of them stood in mid-air, facing each other. A powerful wave of qi lingered around the two of them, spreading out wantonly. The hurricane didn't stop, and the airwaves were monstrous. The few people who were standing not far away were simply dumbfounded. It was too scary. The profound qi surrounding the two of them was like a whirlwind. Compared to the Xian qi that had rushed over after following the Xian qi fluctuation, it was even more terrifying. Fortunately, these two people were still somewhat rational. However, as the profound energy of both sides converged, the aura they released did not spread throughout the entire flame nest. Otherwise, they were afraid that they would not be able to stand here and watch. Is this the power of His Majesty? I'm so used to seeing him and Qing Luo being so lovey-dovey that I've almost forgotten that the Overlord is actually so strong. Yan Xiaoyi raised her head and stared unblinkingly at the two people in midair, her eyes filled with astonishment. Tong Ziqing was also unable to maintain her cold elegance as her eyes were filled with astonishment. What's more frightening is that this Death God Castle's castle master is actually on par with the Overlord. With a pause, Tong Ziqing seemed to have thought of something. She immediately restrained the shock in her eyes and looked at Long Yunzhan beside her. Class leader, she called out to him softly. Long Yunzhan didn't even blink as he stared at the two people in the air. The azure light in his eyes flickered. There seemed to be some complicated feelings that she could not understand. However, Tong Ziqing could see it. The veins on his forehead bulged. His whole body was taut with muscles. His hands clenched into fists. Dmo Xian's power had deeply awed Long Yunzhan. He felt inferior because he couldn't defeat Long Yunzhan. Tong Ziqing's heart faintly throbbed with pain. He still loved Yiqing Luo. Because he loved Yi Qing Luo, that was why he compared himself with DMO Xian. Class monitor, who do you think will win? Yan Xiaoyi, who didn't notice the strange atmosphere, was still excitedly discussing with Long Yunzhan. There was no reply from Long Yunzhan after a long while. Yan Xiaoyi ignored him and continued to stare at the two people who were exuding pressure in midair. TSK. Awu, these two young people are really amazing. Zoemo clicked his tongue and looked at the two of them in amazement. Do they have the demeanor you had back then? You make it sound like you're very old, Kitty Lee, who was in his arms, muttered. Zoemo looked down, his long and narrow phoenix eyes forming a demonic arc looking at the two black cat ears, which kept swaying on top of his head. He gave a low laugh as he bent down and leaned close to her ear as he laughed hoarsely. Little wild cat, whether I'm old or not, you can verify for yourself. Although Kitty Lee didn't quite understand the hidden meaning in Zoemo's words. But her cat's intuition told her, Zoemo was definitely up to no good. Kitty Lee's eyes widened as she pretended to stare at him fiercely. Pooey! You frivolous man! Kitty Lee doesn't care if you're old or not. Saying that, she snorted and turned her head away, not looking at him. Zoemo was pleased by her cute little gesture. Chapter 1491. I've been paying attention to this Zhu Wu Xian. Suddenly, Gui Wu's cold voice came from the side. It broke the atmosphere of Zoemo teasing Kitty Lee. Zoemo raised his eyebrows. I know, his background is complicated. Our men can't find any information about him. He was a young man, but he was able to become the legendary death god Castle's castle master, who caused people to tremble in fear. Moreover, all the major forces in Nirvana realm were fawning on him. This young man was like a species that appeared out of thin air. An extremely mysterious existence. His mysteriousness was not inferior to DMO Xian. His aura is not inferior to that of a venerable sovereign. He is another abnormal monster. Zoemo looked at Gui Wu. Ah Wu, if this goes on, the balance in the lower realm will be broken. The Emperor has not used his full strength. Gui Wu's malicious eyes swept past Zoemo and Kitty Lee, who was snorting in his arms. Immediately, he gave Zoemo a warning stare. Zoemo gave a disapproving look. Little Wildcat doesn't seem to have a high IQ. She can't understand. You're the one with a low IQ. Your whole family has a low IQ. Kitty Lee retorted angrily, staring at him with her big round eyes. Her little hand clutched Zoemo's collar tightly. She looked like she wanted to rush up and bite him to death. Looking at Kitty Lee's adorable look, Zoemo couldn't help but burst out laughing. One of his hands couldn't help but pinch Kitty Lee's cheek. Kitty Lee let out a meow, and couldn't help but grab Zoemo's hand and bite him. Gui Wu frowned as he watched the two of them playing around. His eyes became more and more solemn. After a while, seeing that Zoemo was still playing around, Gui Wu couldn't be bothered to wait for him. He walked straight towards the direction he came from. Zoemo hurriedly chased after him. Ah Wu, don't be in such a hurry to leave. Aren't you curious about who will win? The two instructors who followed up immediately nodded. They expressed that a duel between two experts was a rare opportunity. They wanted to continue watching. He wanted to see who among these two great experts would be able to win the heart of the beauty. Gui Wu kept a straight face, his eyes gloomy and his voice cold. Not interested. Ayaya. Ah Wu, don't be like this. Don't you want to investigate whether this Zhu Wuxin is… Bang bang bang? Boom boom boom. Suddenly, a deafening explosion interrupted Zoemo's words. The air of the entire flame nest seemed to have gathered a terrifying profound energy fluctuation. It surged like the tide, recklessly colliding. Gui Wu's expression sunk as he immediately activated his barrier, enveloping the 3 students of the devil class as well as the instructors within. He looked up again. In midair, the 2 men who were originally competing with each other's aura had unknowingly become entangled with one another. The fiery red horizon was like a bloody mouth that had opened wide. One of them was glistening with purple light. His aura was like a rainbow. Mysterious light came one after another, carrying a sharp battle intent. One of them was dressed in blood-red robes. He was coquettish and cruel, and the profound energy he released was stronger than the previous one. Two streams of profound chi constantly clashed and collided. Sand and dust filled the sky, and hurricanes messed up everything in the surroundings. Yiqing Luo was firmly held in Diamo Xian's arms. His strong and powerful arm had not loosened even for a moment. His tall body and broad chest protected her well in the confrontation between the two profound qis. She wasn't disturbed by any of the aura. The collision of the profound qi stirred up an intense hurricane. It blew the hair on Yiqing Luo's forehead. She raised her eyes and gazed at the calm and emotionless Diamo Xian. That disdainful look, as though everything was in his palm. Chapter 1492. Zhu Wu Xian's unapproachable face turned even colder. A pair of sharp icy cold eyes stared at the young lady in Diamo Xian's arms. The young lady didn't notice his gaze. The young lady's extremely bewitching eyes were filled with tenderness and unconcealable love. She looked at Diamo Xian in a daze. Using that loving gaze, she looked at Diamo Xian in a daze. Yiqing Luo's gaze deeply agitated Zhu Wu Xian. Obviously, he was the first person to meet Yiqing Luo. Obviously, he was the man whom Yiqing Luo should love. The man whom Yiqing Luo looked at with that kind of gaze should be him. Zhu Wu Xian's usually calm and unperturbed heart was surging with a surge of fury. That pair of icy cold eyes looked extremely malevolent and terrifying. A piercingly cold aura was unleashed continuously. The profound qi surged as the air billowed into the sky. The profound qi intertwined once again as sparks flew. Diamo Xian. The icy cold voice had a tinge of hoarseness. She belongs to me, she belongs to me. Zhu Wu Xian spat out words which seemed like a demon's spell. Inexplicably, there was an extremely strange feeling. Diamo Xian scoffed in disdain. His sleeves moved slightly as a burst of powerful profound qi was unleashed from his sleeves. The purple light was dazzling as it broke through the enchantment which Zhu Wu Xian had conjured and shot towards Zhu Wu Xian's face. Zhu Wu Xian reacted in time as he swiftly evaded it. But he still couldn't avoid being struck on the chest by that strike. Zhu Wu Xian gave a dull moan as he retreated a few steps. Yiqing Luo also heard Zhu Wu Xian's words as her brows creased as she spoke in a chilly voice. "Young Master Zhu, the person whom you insist on believing might not be me. I admire young Master Zhu's persistence towards the woman you love, but this persistence, please don't place it on me." She had no memories of Zhu Wu Xian at all. Zhu Wu Xian was another man with a hole in his brain, pestering her and insisting that it was her, yet refusing to be reasonable. Yiqing Luo finally came to a conclusion. This Zhu Wu Xian. He was a lunatic. "If it's not you, I'll kill you." Zhu Wu Xian's icy cold voice was filled with a biting cold, murderous intent. Yiqing Luo didn't doubt that Zhu Wu Xian's words were just casually said. Once he was sure that she wasn't the person he was looking for, he would definitely kill her. He would not hesitate to kill her. Yiqing Luo's brows creased even tighter. Just as he was about to speak, Diamo Xian beat him to it. "Kill her? Do you think you have the ability?" "She is." Zhu Wu Xian stared at Yiqing Luo's face, stubborn and certain. It was very tiring to talk to such a person. Zhu Wuxin's stubbornness was already incurable. In Zhu Wuxin's view, his people should belong to him. If he had recognized the wrong Yiqing Luo, he would choose to kill this woman with his own hands, the woman he had saved multiple times because he had admitted his mistake. However, Zhu Wuxin still insisted that he had not recognized the wrong person. His Yiqing Luo was this Yiqing Luo. He wanted Yiqing Luo to recall their past. If Yiqing Luo really couldn't recall, if he couldn't obtain it, then he would destroy it. This thought surfaced in his mind. A biting cold murderous intent flashed past Zhu Wu Xian's eyes. Zhu Wu Xian, this lord shall use action to tell you today that this lord's woman is not a woman you can dream of. Just as he finished his words, Dmo Xian's entire body's energy suddenly soared. A terrifying profound light shot directly towards Zhu Wu Xian's direction. Chapter 1493. The Overlord is getting serious. Gui Wu looked at the pressure being unleashed in the sky as his expression sunk slightly. Let's go, this isn't something we can interfere in. Zhuo Xian remained calm and composed as he looked at Dmo Xian, who was dressed in a purple robe as his sleeves danced, looking as handsome as a god. He rubbed his chin as he gave a meaningful smile. Since ancient times, heroes have a weakness for the charms of a beauty. Bam! A loud sound was heard as Zhu Wu Xian's body fell from the sky. Following that, he landed heavily on the ground. Ah Xian! Yiqing Luo hurriedly hugged Dmo Xian's waist, preventing him from attacking again. Enough, the both of you are enough. The sand which flew up from the ground was blown away by the hurricane. Zhu Wu Xian fell onto the ground and his body actually dragged out an obvious trace on the ground. But he was still expressionless, as though he couldn't feel the pain in his body. There wasn't any feeling at all. Yiqing Luo saw it clearly. Zhu Wu Xian's red wide sleeves had already been torn apart. Bright red blood kept gushing out, fusing with his crimson luxurious robe. If one didn't look closely, one wouldn't be able to tell that he was injured. A trace of blood spilled out from the corner of Zhu Wu Xian's mouth. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly felt an indescribable dull pain. Her brows creased as her little hand pressed against her chest. She couldn't understand where this feeling came from. Feeling heartache? Dmo Xian squinted his peach blossom eyes as he stared at Yiqing Luo's dazed face as he asked in an unhappy tone. Yiqing Luo shook her head as she looked at Zhu Wu Xian's direction and sighed softly. He just recognized the wrong person and is too stubborn. No matter what, he saved me several times, so I owe him a few favors. Even if it was because he recognized the wrong person, which was why Zhu Wu Xian saved her. But saving her was the truth. His stubbornness was merely because he loved that person too much, the person he was looking for. Lil Luo, you're my woman. Regardless of life or death, you're mine. Dmo Xian locked her lower jaw as his brows were filled with solemnity. No matter if he denies that he's the wrong person, you better remember this sentence. Looking at the jealous Dmo Xian, childishly, Yiqing Luo's brows overflowed with a trace of tenderness. She put her arms around his neck and nodded hard. I'm yours, and only you. It didn't matter if Zhu Wuxin denied that he was the wrong person. No matter what happened between her and Chu Wuxin, the current her only had Dmo Xian in her heart. This would never change. Not good. There's movement. All of a sudden, the ghost marshal's vigilant voice rang out. Gui Wu and Zhou Mo quickly shielded the other students and instructors behind them. The fire nest is about to collapse. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone felt the ground beneath their feet shake. Dmo Xian hugged Yiqing Luo tightly as his brows creased as he looked at the source of the disturbance. In the depths of the lair, there was no end to it. Suddenly, an extremely dazzling ray of light shot out like the light of fire. In an instant, the entire fire nest was illuminated. Wherever the dazzling light went, everything in its surroundings would be hidden in the light. Ah Xian, this. What's going on? Yiqing Luo looked at that ray of light in shock, which was already flying towards them. Her gaze looked towards Zhu Wu Xian's direction. Young Master Zhu is still over there. Ah Xian, let's bring him along and leave. Her words suddenly came to a halt. Wasn't Zhu Wu Xian injured by Dmo Xian earlier? Why did he disappear? In Zhu Wu Xian's direction, there was only a pool of blood and Zhu Wu Xian's figure was nowhere to be seen. Dmo Xian's eyes sunk as he instantly reacted. Lil Luo hugged me tightly. But, just as he finished his words, Chapter 1494. Following that, it was an earth-shattering brilliance as it shrouded over. Before Yiqing Luo could react, a strong suction force, like a tornado, sucked her in forcefully. The next moment, Yiqing Luo felt her vision turning black as she fainted. When Yiqing Luo regained consciousness, she discovered that she was in a huge karst cave. There were blazing flames in all directions. The surroundings were filled with lava, rolling and flowing. The place where she laid was also a path created by the flames. What made Yiqing Luo astonished was, she totally didn't feel any heat at all. As though these flames were all illusory. But Yiqing Luo was clear, these were absolutely not illusory flames. But they really existed. Surveying the surroundings, this was a passageway constructed by the flames. As far as the eye could see, it was all flames. What was this place? Where were Dmo Xian and the rest? Numerous questions kept darting around in her mind. Las Luo, this is the underground depths of the blazing cavern. Old Man Tsang voiced out in time, clearing Yiqing Luo's doubts. The underground depths of the blazing cavern? Why would she suddenly be in such a place? Where were Ah Xian and the rest? Have you forgotten, there's a rumor regarding the blazing cavern? Old Man Tsang reminded. Rumor? Is it the rumor that there's a divine object descending into the blazing cavern? The Overlord and Chu Wu Xian had just fought. The power was too huge, causing the blazing cavern to activate its self-protection enchantment, sucking all of you into the underground depths of the blazing cavern, which is also the blazing cavern's root vein. Yiqing Luo looked around in astonishment. This is the blazing cavern's root vein? What kind of self-protection enchantment is this? A place's root vein was equivalent to a person's Achilles heel. If Yiqing Luo tampered with the blazing cavern's root vein, the entire blazing cavern would fall into destruction. You can enter, but you can't leave. Old Man Tsang directly dispelled Yiqing Luo's thoughts. If you destroy the blazing cavern's root vein, all of you will die here. Let's find Ah Xian and the rest first. We'll think of a way after everyone gathers. Yiqing Luo heard that and could only sigh softly. Deep underground of the blazing cavern's root vein. Could it be the divine object prophesied by the state preceptor of South Billow Continent? Did it descend into the world from this land of roots? After all, news of a divine object descending upon the blaze lair had spread like wildfire. However, no one had actually seen the so-called divine item. He didn't even know what a divine object was. If the imperial tutor's prophecy was true, presumably the so-called divine object was in the land of the root. Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up and immediately summoned Chi-Chi from the pet space. Chi-Chi, try to sense where you're being summoned from. Chi-Chi wagged its little tail and nestled in Yiqing Luo's arms. A pair of tiger eyes looked around, unable to conceal the excitement in his eyes. Master, Master, the feeling of summoning Chi-Chi is getting stronger and stronger. This is the place. Master, move forward. The feeling of being summoned allowed Chi-Chi to clearly sense the location of the summoning. For some reason, Chi-Chi felt a little excited. Looking at Chi-Chi's expression, Yiqing Luo confirmed the guess in her heart. Hugging Chi-Chi, Yiqing Luo followed Chi-Chi's instructions and walked straight ahead. He had just walked through a long passageway. Yiqing Luo's ears twitched. Chapter 1495. Yiqing Luo's expression congealed as a burst of vigilant, murderous intent shot out from her eyes. With a flip of her palm, the glower flame fan opened up in her hands. Bam! A loud sound was heard as Yiqing Luo's profound chi collided with the incoming aura. Yiqing Luo. A chilly voice was heard from the opposite side. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she kept the glower flame fan and saw the person clearly. Zhu Wu Xian? Zhu Wu Xian's cold eyes were sealed in ice as he stared fixedly at Yiqing Luo's face. His gaze was icy cold, like ice as it enveloped Yiqing Luo's entire body. Yiqing Luo frowned as she wasn't used to Zhu Wu Xian's vision. Young Master Zhu, this place is very dangerous. If you have nothing on, let's split up and find the others first. Yiqing Luo didn't want to be in the same space as Zhu Wu Xian. This man gave her an especially strange feeling. She had a feeling that at the next moment, she would be devoured into his stomach. Zhu Wu Xian's aggressiveness towards her was too strong. Yiqing Luo bypassed Zhu Wu Xian and was about to walk forward. However, her arm was grabbed by him. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter as she swung her hand. Let go. Yiqing Luo, why did you forget about me? Zhu Wu Xian's voice was extremely icy cold in the midst of the flame wave. He asked without any emotions. But Yiqing Luo could hear the tinge of pain in his words. Unknowingly, a certain part of Yiqing Luo's heart seemed to be struck by something fiercely. Inexplicably, it softened. She didn't continue struggling as she raised her eyes and met Zhu Wu Xian's eyes. Young Master Zhu, it's not that I've forgotten about you, but in my memory you don't appear at all. Impossible. Zhu Wu Xian's voice suddenly rose. The hand which was holding Yiqing Luo's wrist increased in strength. Yiqing Luo frowned in pain. Nothing is impossible. If I really remember you, why would I pretend not to know you? Zhu Wu Xian didn't reply. Only using that pair of deep cold eyes, he stared at Yiqing Luo's face quietly. It was as if he wanted to see her face, her eyes, and her soul clearly. After a long time, he suddenly spoke. You are not Yiqing Luo at all. This sentence shocked Yiqing Luo so much that her heart thumped. Could it be the Yiqing Luo whom Zhu Wu Xian knew was actually that weak and timid Yiqing Luo? Was it the Yiqing Luo from before she had crossed over? No, impossible. She was not Yiqing Luo. But it was indeed Yiqing Luo. Everything in this body had already fused with her. There was definitely no Zhu Wuxin in his memories. She came to this continent. He had already completely regarded himself as a citizen of this continent. And she was Yiqing Luo. This was a fact that could not be erased. Yiqing Luo's eyes flickered slightly. Soon after, he calmed his mind and revealed a solemn expression as he said in a deep voice, I don't know why you insist that I am the person you are looking for, but I want to say that you have definitely found the wrong person. After a pause, she continued, if the person you're looking for finds out that you've found the wrong person, he'll definitely be very upset. The grip on his wrist gradually loosened. Yiqing Luo took the opportunity to retract her hand. She took a look at Zhu Wu Xian, who was still in deep thoughts, not wanting to say another word to him. She walked past him and continued walking forward. Aren't you afraid that I'll kill those companions of yours when I see them? Behind her, Zhu Wu Xian's icy cold voice was heard. Chapter 1496. What do you mean? Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed with a cold glint. Zhu Wuxin laughed softly. I am a heartless person. If not for you, I would not have appeared here. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled. This should be the first time Zhu Wuxin had spoken words of love. Although it was still emotionless. But that laughter was an extremely rare expression on Zhu Wuxin's face. But Zhu Wu Xian's next sentence made Yiqing Luo's heart palpitate inexplicably, as it was forcefully wiped out. He said, I said, if you are not her, I will kill you. Then, he added, so, if I see them, I will kill them too. Yiqing Luo's eyes grew colder and colder. She turned around and returned to Zhu Wuxin's side. So, what exactly do you want to do? If you look at me, you can stop me from killing the others, Zhu Wuxin replied calmly. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers clenched tightly. The expression on his face twitched and changed a little. Good. Very good. Wasn't it just because she couldn't beat him now? Fine. She admitted defeat. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and calmed her emotions. Zhu Wu Xian, you'd better not touch my companion. After saying that, she turned around and walked straight ahead. Zhu Wuxin gave her a deep look. Perhaps even he himself did not know. The expression on his face right now was no longer cold and emotionless. What replaced it was a doting look and a face full of tenderness. The two of them walked in the long passage for about an hour. Zhu Wuxin followed behind him. Yiqing Luo naturally couldn't let Qi lead the way to the direction of the summoning. She couldn't tell whether Zhu Wuxin was a friend or foe at the moment. And she believed it. Once Zhu Wuxin confirmed that she really wasn't the person he was looking for, he wouldn't be as easy to talk to as he was now. The thing that was summoning Qi, she could not give it to anyone else. As a result, the two of them circled around the passageways that extended in all directions. Along the way, he did not see a single person. Could it be Gui Wu and the few people from Devil Class were not sucked into the root vein? Then where was Dmo Xian? She remembered the moment when the root vein land was opened. Someone hugged her tightly until the suction force knocked her unconscious. The person who was hugging her was not Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo's mind suddenly cleared up as her eyes were like torches as she stared straight at Zhu Wu Xian. Don't you know that the brilliance in the blazing flame nest is the brilliance which activated the land of the root veins? Otherwise, how could Zhu Wuxin have appeared at the last moment? Forcefully separate her from Dmo Xian? Zhu Wuxin remained silent. In other words, it was a silent agreement. Since he knew, why did he stay in the flame lair and get sucked into the root vein together with her? I want to be alone with you. As though he had seen through Yiqing Luo's thoughts, Zhu Wu Xian, who had remained silent for a long time, suddenly opened his mouth. The minute he opened his mouth, Yiqing Luo felt a chill run down her spine. Zhu Wuxin's words of love, it really didn't match the style. She accepted her incompetence. I want you to remember me, Zhu Wuxin continued. More importantly, he wanted to confirm something for himself. Zhu Wu Xian's eyes flashed slightly. Yiqing Luo's thoughts weren't on Zhu Wu Xian, and she didn't notice the glint in Zhu Wu Xian's eyes. She rubbed her forehead with a headache. Under the current situation, she could no longer continue to deny that she wasn't the person Zhu Wu Xian was looking for. Zhu Wu Xian, this lunatic. Chapter 1497. Master, if this goes on, how are we going to get to the place where Qi was summoned? Qi squirmed in Yiqing Luo's arms. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes and stared at Qi, replying in her heart, we can only find the others first. It was a very simple matter for her to get rid of Zhu Wuxin. However, if Zhu Wuxin encountered Long Yunzhan's trio, he definitely wouldn't be Zhu Wuxin's match. She also tried to contact Kitty Li. But no matter how she called out to Kitty Li, he couldn't get a response from Kitty Li. She and Kitty Li had already signed a life and death contract. The reason why he was unable to contact Kitty Li, otherwise, the land of the root vein had blocked her connection with Kitty Li. Otherwise, under the protection of Zhou Mo and Gui Wu, Kitty Li had not been sucked into the root vein. If it was the latter, that also meant that it was very likely that Long Yunzhan and the other two had not entered the root vein. However, she had no way of confirming that the three of them had not entered the root vein. He still couldn't act alone. Do you hate being with me that much? Zhu Wu Xian looked at Yiqing Luo's back as his voice was filled with pain. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. Before he could think of what to say, her wrist suddenly tightened. His whole body was tightly gripped by a strong force. Her body was suddenly pressed against a wall of fire. The boiling flames continued to burn. But when Yiqing Luo's back was pressed against the wall, she didn't feel any burning sensation at all. Zhu Wu Xian's strength increased as he forcefully pulled Yiqing Luo into his embrace. What entered his nose was Zhu Wuxin's unique plum fragrance. His chest was different from Dmo Xian's generous warmth, but it was also extremely tough. His arms were tightly wrapped around her delicate body. His action of hugging a woman was very unfamiliar. It was obvious that this was the first time he had done such a thing to a woman. Yiqing Luo, you belong to me, belong to me. Zhu Wuxin stared at her face, then suddenly bent down and kissed her forcefully. You once said that you would be my bride. I clearly met you first, why did you forget about me before I found you? His kiss fell on her urgently. Yiqing Luo was anxious and immediately turned her head away. His warm lips landed on her face. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed with a cold glint. Other than Dmo Xian, no matter who it was, this kind of touch was hard for her to accept. She forcefully pushed Chu Wu Xian away and shouted sternly, Chu Wu Xian, let me go. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you. I will make you remember me in my own way. However, Zhu Wuxin wrapped his arms even tighter around her. It was as if he wanted to knead her into his body. His strength was strong and domineering. Yiqing Luo's strength was totally unable to struggle free from Zhu Wu Xian. At the next instance, Zhu Wu Xian's hand had already circled around Yiqing Luo's wrist. His broad palm was extremely powerful. Yiqing Luo's brows creased as the cold glint in her eyes started to seep out murderous intent. Zhu Wu Xian, I'm warning you, if you don't let me go, I'll kill you right now. As soon as he finished speaking, her wrist was pinned to the wall by Zhu Wuxin. His hand tore open the sleeve of her gown. The academy uniform, which had already been dyed red with blood, was torn to shreds with a tearing sound. Half of Yiqing Luo's arm was revealed. On her fair wrist, under the intense flame, there was an extremely obvious cherry blossom pattern. Pieces of cherry blossom petals were imprinted on her arm. Like a cherry blossom bracelet. Yiqing Luo's heart jumped. She instinctively wanted to retract her hand. Zhu Wu Xian discovered the existence of the Azure Dew bracelet? Chapter 1498. Yiqing Luo's hand retracted backwards. Chu Wu Xian's grip tightened. That long slender fingers gently covered that circle of cherry blossom pattern. That pair of icy cold eyes actually at this moment. Like a sacred lotus melting on the snow mountain. And mixed with a trace of gentleness. Gentleness. These two words had nothing to do with Chu Wuxin. But at this moment it really appeared on Chu Wu Xian's face. Towards this, Yiqing Luo only had one feeling, it was too freaking horrifying. Chu Wu Xian's gaze didn't seem like he was looking at a god relic, but looking at something that had existed in his memory for a long time. That kind of deep affection. Not waiting for Yiqing Luo to think of how to deal with Chu Wu Xian. Then she saw a pair of eyes filled with tenderness and affection looking at her. It's indeed you. It's you. Chu Wu Xian's face surfaced a smile as his eyes fixed on her. This birthmark, other than you, who else has it? Birthmark? Yiqing Luo shot a glance at the cherry blossom pattern on the Azure Dew bracelet. Chu Wu Xian treated it as her birthmark? What did he mean by that? This was obviously the mark of the Azure Dew bracelet. In this world, she should be the only one who had this kind of cherry blossom pattern, right? In this era, cherry blossom seemed to be an extremely rare flower. Most of them had never even seen it before. And the meaning behind Chu Wu Xian's words was obviously to say that the cherry blossom pattern which he had seen before was not intentionally drawn by a lady to look good, but a birthmark imprinted on the skin. Which meant to say, Chu Wu Xian didn't recognize the wrong person? She really was the person Chu Wu Xian was looking for? But why was there no memory of Chu Wu Xian at all in her memories? You're mine. The smile on Chu Wu Xian's face gradually turned a little stubborn. He muttered to himself as he hugged Yiqing Luo tightly in his arms. After a few investigations and a few tests, Wang Chong had no idea what was going on. He finally confirmed that Yiqing Luo was the girl whom he knew that year. At this moment, after he saw that unique birthmark on Yiqing Luo's wrist, he was even more certain. She was indeed the Yiqing Luo whom he was looking for. The Yiqing Luo whom he had promised to marry as his wife. Yiqing Luo's entire body was hurting from his hug as she struggled with all her might and even used her profound qi to attack, but she was unable to struggle free from Zhu Wu Xian, who seemed to have fallen into a demonic barrier. She listened to Zhu Wuxin repeat the words "you are mine" over and over again. Yiqing Luo's heart shuddered for no reason. Why do I feel like such a Zhu Wuxin caused her heart to palpitate? Let me go. Zhu Wuxin. Her struggle made Zhu Wu Xian hug her even more tightly. Yiqing Luo, I'm here to keep my promise. After we leave this place, we'll get married. Marriage? Yiqing Luo was completely stunned. Zhu Wu Xian, are you King sick? Who wants to marry you? Let me go. His free hand immediately took out the glowing flame fan. She unfurled her glowing flame fan, and 2 silver threads shot out from it, sinking straight into Zhu Wuxin's shoulder. Let go! She snapped a warning. However, Zhu Wu Xian only gave a dull moan, as he had no intention of letting go of Yiqing Luo. He hugged her tightly. So tightly that Yiqing Luo had no way to make any large-scale movements. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were illuminated by the flames as it sparkled. Looking at Zhu Wu Xian, who had no intention of letting go, she clenched her teeth as she activated the glowing flame fan's silver threads, sinking deeper into Zhu Wu Xian's body. Chapter 1499. I won't let go. I won't let go again. Zhu Wu Xian's voice was actually trembling slightly. Trembling? Even a person like Zhu Wuxin would tremble? Yiqing Luo's fingers, which were gripping the glower flame fan, loosened. Why was he so stubborn? Even if he was pierced by her silver threads, he was unwilling to let go of her. What had happened between them in the past? As a result, Zhu Wuxin's obsession with her had already penetrated deep into his bones? Yiqing Luo, you are destined to be mine. This is the promise we made. Suddenly, Zhu Wu Xian's gaze deeply locked onto Yiqing Luo's face. Let's get married. His eyes were clear. It was extremely clear. It didn't contain any impurities. He wanted to marry her. That was his only thought at this moment. This kind of gaze made Yiqing Luo's heart feel slightly cold. Impossible. She rejected him without any hesitation as her charming eyes were suffused with a cold glint. Zhu Wu Xian, no matter what we had in the past, it will only be in the past. The person I love is only Dmo Xian, the person I choose will only be Dmo Xian. She was Dmo Xian's woman. She loved Dmo Xian deeply. No matter what happened in the past, the only person she loved and wanted to marry was only Dmo Xian. Perhaps it was the mention of the name, Dmo Xian. Zhu Wuxin's body gradually stiffened. He slowly loosened his grip on Yiqing Luo as he pulled apart the distance between them. Yiqing Luo was delighted, thinking that he had regained his senses. At the next instant, Zhu Wu Xian's hand grabbed onto Yiqing Luo's neck. His slender fingers clasped tightly around her neck. His handsome face once again returned to its frozen expression. Dmo Xian? A cold voice came out from Zhu Wu Xian's mouth. As he spoke, his fingers gradually tightened. Yiqing Luo suddenly felt a suffocating feeling. She reached out and grabbed Zhu Wuxin's wrist, struggling with all her might. You belong to me. You can only be mine. Zhu Wuxin narrowed his eyes, killing intent faintly flashing in them. If you can't keep your promise to me, then I'll use destruction to end everything. The tightness on Yiqing Luo's neck made her even more dizzy. Her hand slid down from Zhu Wuxin's arm. Damn it! Zhu Wuxin really wanted to kill her. This lunatic. Did he want to die with her? Yiqing Luo tried her best to adjust the profound qi in her body, trying to suppress Zhu Wu Xian. She did not want to die with Zhu Wu Xian like this. The brothers were still waiting for her. Xian was still waiting for her. Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo worked hard to concentrate her mind, mobilizing the profound qi in her profound jade heart and communicating with Qi. As long as he caught Zhu Wuxin off guard, Qi launched an attack. He would definitely be able to restrain Zhu Wuxin for a while. However, when Yiqing Luo finally mobilized her profound jade heart and spread it over her entire body, relieving the suffocating feeling at her neck, just as she was about to counterattack, he suddenly felt a dull pain in his heart. Her vision went white. A blurry image suddenly leaped into his mind. That was the 10-year-old little Qing Luo. After a round of beatings by Yi Qing Ling and Yi Qing Qing, she was sick and weak, nesting in the abandoned courtyard full of cobwebs. It was already the middle of winter. Little Qing Luo was only wearing a thin robe, and it was extremely worn out, stained with fresh blood. In the room, there was only a wooden bed and a piece of worn-out, smelly thin blanket. She sprawled on the bed, and every breath she took would affect the wounds on her body, making her so painful that she couldn't help but draw in a breath of cold air. The cold wind blew in from the broken door and window. Chapter 1500. Her wound was getting more and more painful under the cold wind. Due to hunger, his stomach was growling. Xiao Qing Luo thought that she would have to look for her mother tonight. Just as she was thinking about it, suddenly Xiao Qing Luo heard a heavy object landing on the ground, as though something had rolled in. Xiao Qing Luo got a shock. "No, don't hit me, don't." She thought it was Yi Qing Qian and the rest who came to look for her again. Xiao Qing Luo curled up and shivered. However, after a long while, the room was quiet and no one responded. In the howling cold wind, Xiao Qing Luo heard an obvious, breathing sound that was not in sync with her own. That sound was getting heavier and heavier. Xiao Qing Luo clutched the smelly quilt in fear. Little Zi Ling went to look for something to eat for her. She was the only one in the entire abandoned courtyard. Who could it be that came to her abandoned courtyard? After a moment of silence, Xiao Qing Luo didn't hear any footsteps. Only that heavy breathing sound could be heard. Who is it?" She opened her mouth carefully with a trembling voice. No one answered her, and that heavy breathing sound gradually became gentle. Xiao Qing Luo tightened the quilt and endured the pain on her body as she looked towards the direction of the sound. Her abandoned courtyard didn't have any supply of candles. Once night fell, the entire room would be pitch black. Xiao Qing Luo had long been used to this kind of environment. Therefore, she only took a quick glance. She saw a blurry shadow below the window. From the silhouette of the shadow, it should be a person. Why would someone appear in her courtyard? Xiao Qing Luo was filled with fear and doubts. But as a 10-year-old child, no matter how afraid she was, she couldn't resist her curiosity. Moreover, a person appeared in her room. She couldn't be indifferent. Taking a deep breath, Xiao Qing Luo wrapped the quilt and slid down from the bed. The wounds on her body were rubbed by the rough quilt, causing more pain. There was a smell of blood in the air. Extremely thick. Xiao Qing Luo's body was covered with this smell of blood, but she could still feel the thicker smell of blood permeating her room. She endured the pain and walked towards the direction of the shadow. Just as she reached the window and was about to ask who the shadow was, suddenly, a cold glint flashed across his eyes. Her small body was pulled by someone and fell into the arms of a thin and weak man. A long sword was placed on her neck. Xiao Qing Luo had never seen such a battle before. Usually, when her sister and the servants bullied her, they never used weapons like swords or knives. Xiao Qing Luo froze, not daring to move recklessly. "Child!" A hoarse voice sounded beside his ear, bringing with it a trace of coldness. As he spoke, he panted heavily. Xiao Qing Luo smelled that pungent blood stench from his body. "You're injured." Xiao Qing Luo's nose twitched, even more serious than my injury. The sword that was pressed against her neck loosened. Xiao Qing Luo pursed her lips as her voice was soft and soft. "Were you also bullied by brother and sister, so you hid in my courtyard? Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you." The black shadow was silent for a long time. Suddenly he put down the long sword. "Don't move, the smell of blood on your body is very, very heavy. Let me get up, if I press on you, I will bleed even more." Xiao Qing Luo only felt that this person who was worse off than her was even more pitiful than her. Little her immediately had a protective instinct. Chapter 1501. The black shadow obeyed and released her. Little Qing Luo carefully climbed up. The pain from the wound made her mouth continuously let out hissing sounds of pain. Just as she stood up, she didn't have time to speak. She heard a burst of light outside the courtyard. A lot of shadows of torches appeared outside the door. The light from the fire shone through the open window. Little Qing Luo saw the person sitting next to her, covered in blood. That was it could be called a stunning face. The young Qing Luo couldn't think of any adjectives to describe it. But she knew that this face was the most beautiful face she had ever seen. It was even better looking than her brothers and sisters. It was just that the expression on this beautiful face was very scary. When they looked at him, it was as if they were frozen by ice. Go in and search. Find the assassin for me. A familiar yet strange voice came from outside the courtyard. Little Qing Luo was startled and murmured in surprise and joy, "Father is here." But immediately after, she heard her father's voice, which was obviously full of anger. And that very good-looking person once again used his sword and pressed it against her neck. "That person is your father?" The cold voice was fierce and full of killing intent. Little Qing Luo shivered and made a strong N sound. The young boy's eyes slightly sunk as he stared at little Qing Luo for a long time. Looking at this little girl living in the abandoned courtyard, her clothes were messy and shabby, her body full of injuries, it was obvious that she wasn't favored in the Yi family. Even if he used her to threaten Yi Tianquang, it would be useless. "Little brother, is father going to catch you?" Little Qing Luo heard the sound of rummaging outside and Yi Tianquang's unceasing furious roars. The young boy's cold eyes were cold as he stared at little Qing Luo's innocent face. His sharp eyes seemed to be thinking whether to kill this little girl or not. The next moment, the little girl stretched out her hand and hugged his arm tightly. "Little brother, hide here. Father definitely won't be able to find you." When she used force, the flesh wounds on her body made her grimace in pain. The young boy also noticed those wounds on her body. It was clearly so painful that tears were about to fly out, but she still insisted on supporting him to hide from Yi Tianquang. For some unknown reason, those tearful eyes softened a certain part of the youth's heart. Subconsciously, he propped himself up and followed Xiao Qing Luo towards her direction. She hid him under the plank bed. The house was filled with all kinds of broken wood and straw. No one noticed the young boy hiding inside. The voices outside the courtyard were getting closer and closer. The light from the torch was getting brighter and brighter. Xiao Qing Luo saw the obvious pool of blood under the window. She turned her head and looked at the young boy under the bed. Her clear and beautiful eyes revealed a trace of determination. She bent down and picked up the sword in the boy's hand. "What are you going to do?" The young man's eyes narrowed as he asked vigilantly. But before he could say anything, he heard Xiao Qing Luo moaning in pain. She used the long sword and cut her wrist. Immediately, he stuffed the long sword under the bed. His small body was wrapped in the smelly blanket, and he shrunk back to where the young boy had been sitting. Blood oozed out from Xiao Qing Luo's wrist. It fused with the bloodstains on the ground. She leaned against the window, her little face contorted in pain. In the bottom of the young boy's heart, he didn't know what kind of shock he had. This little girl, was she an idiot? She actually wanted to kill him, a complete stranger, just to save him. Chapter 1502. He looked at the little girl who was curled up on the ground with a face full of pain. At this moment, Zhu Wu Xian's heart, which had been sealed away for a long time, was finally filled. He actually felt a trace of warmth. The cold wind rustled and the wounds on his body ached. But he felt extremely warm. This was the first person in his life who was willing to do anything for him. Bang! With a loud bang, the dilapidated door was violently flung open. The door fell to the ground, sending up a cloud of dust. The howling cold wind blew the dried branches and straws in the house all over the floor. Cough, 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 Yi Tianquang choked and violently coughed a few times. The howling cold wind could not blow away the thick smell of blood in the room. Yi Tianquang's expression immediately became grave. "It's in this room. Search. Then, a group of guards and manservants holding torches swarmed into the house. Father, suddenly, a weak and tiny voice entered everyone's ears. Under the illumination of the fire, they saw Xiao Qing Luo wrapped in a thin blanket, trembling all over. Beneath her was a pool of blood. What's wrong with you? When Yi Tianquang saw the scarred Qing Luo, there wasn't a trace of fatherly love in his eyes. On the contrary, he frowned with extreme disgust. He waved his hand, signaling for the guards and servants to leave. In any case, you're the young matriarch of the Three Springs sect. If people see you in this state, wouldn't they laugh at our Three Springs sect's incompetence? Yi Tianquang walked forward in annoyance. He directly extended his hand and pulled little Qing Luo up from the ground. The thin quilt was stinky and tainted with the smell of blood. This caused Yi Tianquang's brows to wrinkle even tighter, and he directly flung away that piece of quilt. Little Qing Luo's frail body was revealed. She was injured all over, and the blood on her wrist was still gushing out. His entire body was freezing cold, and his wounds, big and small, were already festering. Yi Tianquang threw Xiao Qing Luo to the ground in disgust. This room, apart from you, has anyone else entered? No, no. Xiao Qing Luo curled up on the ground in pain, her eyes filled with tears. She ached all over. But he didn't dare to shout half a sentence in front of Yi Tianquang, because she knew that her father hated her very much. Her sisters bullied her. If she complained to her father, the one who would be punished would be her. Useless thing. Yi Tianquang lightly snorted. After that, his gaze swept through the entire room, and after confirming that there were no other auras, he turned around and walked out of the room. In Yi Tianquang's heart, this useless, cowardly and incompetent daughter absolutely didn't have the guts to lie to him. The noise outside the courtyard gradually subsided. Xiao Qing Luo then tried her best to shift her body as she asked softly, "Are you all right?" There was no response from under the bed. Xiao Qing Luo started to panic. Could it be that the action of pushing you to the bottom of the bed caused your wound to open up? Little brother, wait for me, I'll go over now. Saying that, Xiao Qing Luo couldn't be bothered about her injuries as she tried her best to stand up and walk towards the direction of the little wooden bed. She walked unsteadily. With every step he took, his entire body ached. She couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. After taking a few steps, a cold voice came from under the bed. "Enough, I'm fine. Don't come any closer." His voice was somewhat hoarse, and he coughed a few times from time to time. Hearing the little youth's voice, Xiao Qing Luo finally let out a sigh of relief. "Little brother, it's good that you're all right." As she spoke, she still tried her best to move towards the bottom of the bed. Chapter 1503. The young boy's aura suddenly froze. A murderous aura burst out from his body. One hand held the long sword at the side. "Little brother, don't be afraid. This is the footsteps of my servant girl." As soon as he finished speaking, he saw a small figure limping over from the door. When he saw the door that had fallen to the ground, a trace of astonishment appeared on his pale and thin face. "Miss, are you okay?" Little Zi Ling rushed to Qing Luo's side and her eyes turned red when she saw Qing Luo covered in blood. "I'm fine." Qing Luo shook her head and touched little Zi Ling's head. "Ling-er, help me lift the little brother out from under the bed. He's seriously injured." "Little brother?" Little Zi Ling was puzzled. When she saw the strange young boy under the bed, Zi Ling exclaimed in surprise. Before she could speak, Qing Luo covered her mouth tightly. Don't shout. Father just brought people to chase little brother." "Miss, you, what are you doing? The master is chasing him, how can you?" Little Zi Ling looked at the young boy under the bed and immediately persuaded her Mississippi, "Miss, if we hand him over now, the master will definitely find someone to look at your injuries." "No." Qing Luo shook her head stubbornly and the expression on her face became serious. "I promised to help little brother, so I must help him. Knowing that she couldn't win against her miss, little Zi Ling had to help Qing Luo and lifted the young boy out from under the bed. After a long while, the two little girls helped the young boy to lie down on the bed. Qing Luo grabbed the thin quilt on the ground and covered the young boy. Seeing the young boy's frown, she lowered her eyes in embarrassment. "Little brother, I'm sorry, I only have this quilt. The weather is cold and we don't have a door, please make do with it." The young boy's frown deepened. When he saw the disappointment and guilt in Qing Luo's eyes, something seemed to tremble in his heart. Almost subconsciously, he blurted out, "What about you?" Qing Luo was startled and immediately raised a big smile. "I'm not cold, it's okay." The cold wind was bleak and Qing Luo was also covered with wounds. The thin robe on his body could not withstand the cold at all. He was clearly shivering from the cold, and even his voice was trembling. However, she still covered him with the only blanket that could keep him warm. This little girl was really silly. The young boy stared at that smiling face without blinking. He was used to fighting openly and covertly, as well as conspiracies and plot. Little Qing Luo's innocence easily touched a certain part of the young man's heart. "You come up to the bed too," the young boy said calmly. Xiao Qing Luo's eyes widened as she shook her head vigorously. "The adults all say that there are differences between males and females. If we sleep on the same bed, we will get married in the future. You're still a child. When you grow up, you won't be able to sleep on the same bed with a man," the young boy said with rare patience. Xiao Qing Luo hesitated for a moment. Perhaps it was because it was too cold. She crawled onto the bed timidly. "Miss, this is the steamed bun we just got from 8th young master. You haven't eaten all day, eat something before you sleep." Little Zi Ling limped to the bedside and carefully took out the steamed bun from her arms. The steamed bun was already cold and a little hard. But to Qing Luo it was already very good food. Chapter 1504. "Little brother, are you hungry?" Little Qing Luo took the steamed bun but didn't eat it immediately. Instead, she leaned over to the young boy and asked softly. The young boy glanced at the cold hard steamed bun and frowned. "Do you eat this every day?" If he didn't hear it wrong. Didn't Yi Tianquang just say that this girl was the young matriarch of Three Springs sect? A dignified young matriarch living in such a place and eating this kind of steamed bun? Little Qing Luo blinked her watery eyes and pinched a small piece of the cold hard steamed bun and sent it to the young boy's mouth. "Not every day. These are secretly left for me by little you. Sometimes I can't even eat them." The steamed bun was stained with blood from little Qing Luo's fingers. He frowned and wanted to turn his head away. But, when he saw that pair of pure beautiful eyes, his mouth opened subconsciously. The steamed bun mixed with little Qing Luo's blood entered his mouth. Seeing him eat it, little Qing Luo's face showed a big smile. Until half of the steamed bun was eaten, the young boy came back to his senses and looked away. "I'm not eating any more." Little Qing Luo didn't force him. She threw the steamed bun that had brushed past the young boy's mouth into her own mouth without any hesitation. It was just a very ordinary action. But the young boy's heart inexplicably accelerated. This feeling made him extremely helpless. This was just a 10-year-old girl. He would actually feel shy? The young boy's heart was complicated. Little Qing Luo didn't notice. She divided the remaining half of the steamed bun into half and handed it to little Zi Ling. "Linger, you must be hungry. Let's eat together." She kept staring at her miss as she gave the steamed bun to a stranger she didn't know. Zi Ling's heart was actually against it. But looking at her miss feeding him so happily, little Zi Ling suppressed the displeasure in her heart. Her young miss was too kind. That was why she suffered all kinds of bullying in the Yi family. Looking at the half-steamed bun that little Qing Luo handed over, little Zi Ling endured the hunger in her stomach and shook her head. "Miss, I'm not hungry. You should eat quickly. Just eat when I tell you to. Every time you say you're not hungry, your stomach is obviously growling." Little Qing Luo couldn't help but put the steamed bun into little Zi Ling's hand. Then, he wolfed down the rest of the steamed bun. Little Zi Ling retreated to another corner of the room, where she slept. The thin quilt was too small, and it could only accommodate 2 of them at most. Little Qing Luo also couldn't call little Zi Ling to the bed, so her little body curled up beside the young boy. Gradually, Xiao Qing Luo leaned on the young man and fell into a deep sleep. In the night, the young boy's tightly shut eyes opened. He glanced sideways at the beautiful girl nestled in his arms. No matter how cold the wind was, it blew. His heart did not feel the slightest bit of coldness. On the contrary, it was a scorching heat that burned in his heart. An indescribable and unfamiliar feeling gradually sprouted from the bottom of his heart. The next day, Yi Tianquang sent an old doctor to treat little Qing Luo's injuries. The old doctor often came to treat little Qing Luo's injuries. He didn't have much respect for this unfavored young matriarch. After he came, he didn't even check his pulse. He threw a few bags of medicinal herbs at the entrance of the courtyard and left. Anyway, this unfavored young sect master had only suffered superficial injuries from the other few young ladies. Chapter 1505. Little Zi Ling picked up a few packets of medicine at the door and cursed the old doctor in a low voice. But she still picked up the medicine packets like they were treasures and brought them back to the room. Little Qing Luo used cold water to clean the wounds on her body. At this moment, she was cleaning the young boy's wounds. Seeing those packets of medicine, she quickly ordered little Zi Ling to boil the medicine. "Little brother, there's medicine, your injuries can definitely be cured." Little Qing Luo carefully wiped the knife and arrow wounds on the young boy's body. "Medicine?" The young boy frowned and looked at the big and small packets of medicine. "Little brother, don't worry, those medicines are definitely for treating external injuries. I often use them, and after using them, the injuries on my body are already healed." Little Qing Luo hurriedly explained, "Little brother, these injuries on your body should also be caused by being beaten by others. They can definitely be cured." The young boy recalled the way Yi Tianquang looked at little Qing Luo last night. It was not like the way he looked at his daughter. Moreover, he obviously knew that his daughter was often bullied. Yi Tianquang did not stop him. Instead, he sent over medicinal ingredients. When little Zi Ling brought over the medicine in a broken bowl, the young boy sniffed it. This was indeed medicine for treating external and internal injuries, and the medicine applied on his body was also used to heal wounds. He hadn't done anything to it. Looking at little Qing Luo, who was squatting beside him with shining eyes and carefully holding the medicinal soup. In the end, he did not refuse little Qing Luo's good intentions. He needed to recover his body as soon as possible. Although these medicines did not have much effect, but at least they could speed up the recovery of his body. Otherwise, once Yi Tianquang found traces of him, he would not have the strength to resist. Moreover, if he continued to stay in this shabby place, he would not freeze to death. He was afraid that his wounds would be infected and fester to death. More importantly, after he recovered, he could quickly heal little Qing Luo's injuries. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The young boy's physique was special. In addition, all the medicinal herbs were used on his body. The young boy's body had already recovered by 70 to 80%. He could leave at any time. But every time he opened his eyes and saw the girl nestled in his arms, he actually gave birth to a feeling of reluctance to leave. Didn't want to leave the little girl who brought him happiness. Don't want to lose the smile on her face. In his mind, it was like a demonic barrier, as Xiao Qing Luo's voice and her clear smile kept reverberating. "Little big brother, today's steamed buns are not hard. Have a taste." "Little big brother, your wounds are recovering really fast, much faster than mine." "Little big brother, you are so beautiful. My big sister and third sister are not even half as beautiful as you." "Little big brother," she called out to him again and again. For the first time in his life, the young boy felt extremely needed. As a result, he continued to pretend to be heavily injured, forgetting about his mission and the purpose of his appearance at the Three Springs sect. Only staying by Xiaoqing Luo's side, watching her take care of herself, listening to her words in his ear, he did not stop. All of a sudden, he wanted time to stop at this moment forever. After the third day, little Qing Luo would discover the wooden door of the dilapidated house was inexplicably repaired. Furthermore, it was fixed so securely that not even the slightest bit of cold wind could enter. The small wooden bed was also padded with a thick blanket and replaced with a wide, extremely warm quilt. Even the place where little Zi Ling slept was built with a wooden bed. After that, they could eat hot meals every day, and there were bags of food that could be stored for a few months under the bed. Chapter 1506. What made Xiaoqing Luo most astonished was, every morning when I wake up, the wounds on her body gradually healed. The suppurated area had scabbed over. The scars also gradually faded away. She was full of doubts, but she knew that all of this must have been done by the young boy who was gradually able to get out of bed and would occasionally practice his sword in the abandoned courtyard. But she didn't dare to ask. He was afraid that the moment he opened his mouth, everything would become a dream. This dream had been going on for nearly half a month. She did not want to wake up from this dream. Yi Qing Luo. In the courtyard, the young man's icy cold voice was heard, interrupting Xiaoqing Luo's deep thoughts. Hearing his voice, Xiaoqing Luo immediately raised her head, smiling like a flower as she jogged forward. Little brother. He opened his arms and embraced the little girl. They had only known each other for half a month. However, the atmosphere between the two of them seemed to have experienced several years of feelings. The young boy could feel it clearly. The little girl in his arms occupied an extremely important position in his heart. But he had his own mission. Before the mission was completed, before he had enough power to protect this girl, he could not drag her into his world. Yi Qing Luo, I'm leaving. His voice was very calm. He gently hugged the little girl's hand, but he increased his strength. Xiaoqing Luo was stunned. She knew that her little brother would eventually leave. He just didn't expect everything to happen so quickly. This was the first time that, other than Zi Ling and Xiao Yu, he was the person who treated her the best. Wait for me here. The young man lowered his head as his cold eyes locked onto Xiaoqing Luo. Wait for me to pick you up. Xiaoqing Luo buried her head in his arms and shook her head. Her small hands circled his waist tightly. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to see her little brother again. She did not know how much longer she could live in the Three Springs sect. He seemed to have seen through the worries in her heart. The young boy gently stroked her head. Yi Tianquang won't let you die. I will return as soon as possible. Rather than bringing little Qing Luo away now, it would be better to let her stay in the Three Springs sect. He had investigated the Three Springs sect. Although Yi Tianquang loathed Xiaoqing Luo to the extreme, but he would absolutely not let Xiaoqing Luo's life be in any danger. And following him, he was unable to guarantee that he could protect Qing Luo anytime and anywhere. If they were not careful, what awaited them? It was death. That night, the young boy still left. Before he left, he carried Xiaoqing Luo as he whispered into her ear word by word, "Remember my name, I'm Zhu Wu Xian." Chu. Wu Xian. Xiaoqing Luo repeated his name word by word. His warm kiss landed on Xiaoqing Luo's forehead. When I return, I will marry you. Are you willing to be my bride? At this moment, Zhu Wu Xian had to admit it. He was moved by this 10-year-old girl. Her clarity, her beauty. It completely dispelled the darkness in his heart. Captured everything in him. Xiaoqing Luo raised her head, looked at him and nodded her head vigorously. I'm willing. Memories flashed in his mind. All the images stopped at the last scene. Her smile was like a flower, and her eyes were firm as she said, I do. Then it was this body, Xiaoqing Luo's memory. It was a memory that had been sealed in the depths of this body's heart for some reason. Under Zhu Wuxin's relentless attacks, This memory was released in the end. As expected, it was the relationship between the Yi Qing Luo before she transmigrated, the owner of this body, and Zhu Wu Exin. So deep. Hard-working. Chapter 1507. However, how should she tell Zhu Wuxin? The soul of the person he had been searching for was no longer in this world? Zhu Wu Exin's gaze was fixed on Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo was in a trance as her gaze kept changing. Then, he saw a flash of pain in her eyes. His ice-cold eyes suddenly shot out a ray of light. You remember? Just now when Yi Qing Luo was in a trance, that instant gaze. All of a sudden, he felt as if his heart had been violently touched. He would never forget that look. The former Qing Luo had used this kind of gaze to capture his heart, touching the softness in the depths of his heart. The hand which was locked on Yi Qing Luo's neck slowly loosened. His cold eyes were gradually tainted with a sliver of infatuation. Both his hands suddenly hugged Yi Qing Luo's shoulders tightly. Yi Qing Luo, I've said this before, you're the person I'm looking for, you finally remembered. For the promise he had made with Yi Qing Luo previously. In the past few years, he had been working hard to become stronger, and had used all kinds of methods to expand his faction. For Yi Qing Luo. He had even thrown his original intention of becoming stronger to the back of his mind. He couldn't bear for Yi Qing Luo to stay in Three Springs sect and suffer. Every time he recalled the first time he met Yi Qing Luo, she was covered in injuries. Zhu Wu Exin's heart was filled with pain. But all these years, he didn't dare to head over to the Three Springs sect or secretly inquire about Yi Qing Luo's news. Everything about him. They were all in the line of sight of others. If he wanted Yi Qing Luo to live on safely, he must completely isolate himself from Yi Qing Luo, until he finally took control of Death God Castle. Then, he finally built his own force, until he met Yi Qing Luo once again. Just when he wasn't 100% sure that he could bring Yi Qing Luo to his side. Meeting Yi Qing Luo. This Yi Qing Luo who would have stayed in the Three Springs sect to be bullied. He appeared in his world. That was the freshman training ground of the Heavenly Academy. His reunion with her. He was filled with excitement. Unable to restrain his gaze, he fixed it on her. After 5 years, she was completely different from the person in his memories. The way she looked at him was also extremely strange. This made Zhu Wuxin panic. He wanted to ascertain if this Yi Qing Luo was really the Yi Qing Luo who called him little brother. He purposely sent someone to deliver medicine to her. He intentionally told his name to Yi Qing Luo. However, she was still completely unperturbed. It was as if he could not recall who this so-called young Master Zhu was. After that, the entire Three Springs city was filled with astonishing rumors regarding the seventh miss of the Yi family, Yi Qing Luo. Her transformation surprised everyone. She was no longer the cowardly and humiliated seventh young mistress, but that he possessed swift and fierce skills, an awe-inspiring aura, and was able to kill his sister in an instant. He was above everyone else, the queen. That's right, the queen. The rumored Yi Qing Luo, in other people's eyes, was like a queen that no one could blaspheme. Following that, he heard the conversation between Yi Qing Luo and the Overlord. That ambiguous and inseparable relationship. The next time they met was in the Death God Castle. She had brought her students to do a mission. In the end, he couldn't control himself and took the initiative to acknowledge her. But she had really forgotten who he was. Her eyes were no longer as pure and sweet as when they first met. Chapter 1508. Probing time and time again. Trying to make her recall his name time and time again. But what she got in return was disappointment time and time again. Yi Qing Luo couldn't remember herself. She didn't lose her memories, but in her memories, there was no existence of him at all. She remembered everything. She only forgot about him. Hearing Zhu Wu Exin's voice, which was filled with shock and that tone, the arms which were hugging her tightly became tighter and tighter. Yi Qing Luo was unable to harden her heart to struggle out of his embrace. The person Zhu Wu Xian was looking for was her, but also not her. After all, she had let him down. Yiqing Luo and Zhu Wu Xian's past relationship. The man who was hugging her was breathing heavily and hurriedly, as he kept muttering her name. The current Zhu Wu Xian. Where was the usual cold, heartless, and aloof look? Love was enough to change heaven and earth. Even the heartless Zhu Wu Xian would also reveal such an expression. Like Dmo Xian, noble and elegant in front of outsiders, unattainable. But in front of her, he was just a barbaric and overbearing man. Thinking of Dmo Xian, Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered slightly as she pulled herself back from the guilt towards Zhu Wu Xian. I have indeed recalled. She gently nudged Zhu Wu Xian. Hearing her admission, the joy on Zhu Wu Xian's face grew even thicker. He then let go of Yiqing Luo as his hands rested on her shoulders. I know, you will not forget me, and will not forget the agreement between us. This was the first lady who moved his heart, and the last lady who made him want to protect his entire life. Yiqing Luo, it's been 5 years. I'm back. After we leave the blazing flame nest, let's get married, alright? Zhu Wu Xian's eyes didn't contain any coldness, but it was filled with hope as he looked at her expression, extremely anxiously waiting for Yiqing Luo's answer. That careful and extremely apprehensive look. It made Yiqing Luo's heart ache faintly. She clenched her fists tightly as she sighed once again. Don't worry this time, I will absolutely not abandon you. Zhu Wu Xian seemed to have thought of something as his eyes looked firmly at Yiqing Luo. I will accompany you every day, you can go wherever you want. Master Zhu. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and slapped away the hand which was on her shoulder. This form of address came out from Yiqing Luo's mouth. The excited Zhu Wuxin's smile gradually froze. His cold eyes were once again filled with coldness. This form of address clearly expressed Yiqing Luo's attitude. His hand slid down from Yiqing Luo's shoulder. His slender body took a few steps back. He staggered a little. He stabilized his footsteps and stared at Yiqing Luo's calm face. Neither of them opened their mouths to break the strange silence. After a while, Zhu Wuxin burst out laughing. That laughter was mixed with an extremely clear pain. Ha ha! Young Master Chu? When you think of me, you still call me young Master Zhu. He smiled, his cold eyes filled with pain. In the past, you always called me little big brother, but now you won't even call me by my name. He's smiling. Her expression was still calm. Only her eyes, which were as calm as still water, were fluttering incessantly, revealing her flustered emotions at this moment. Chapter 1509. It wasn't that she was cold-blooded and heartless. It wasn't that she didn't care about Zhu Wu Xian's feelings and forcefully rejected his feelings towards her. But feelings shouldn't be dragged around in the first place. If she gave Zhu Wu Xian hope, that was the real cruelty towards Zhu Wu Xian. Just one sentence and you want to erase everything that happened between us? Zhu Wu Xian gave a low laugh as his pair of cold eyes started to turn red. The veins on his handsome face started to pop out. He was restraining his own emotions, restraining his urge to kill someone. Then young Master Zhu, what do you want? Yiqing Luo asked calmly. Following that, she continued, I don't know why, the memory of you when I was 10 years old has been completely forgotten. But forget is forget. Perhaps this is the predestined ending between you and me. What do I want? Zhu Wu Xian suddenly raised his voice as he howled in a low voice. You're asking me what I want? Don't tell me you're not clear about what I want, don't you understand? His arms once again locked onto Yiqing Luo's shoulders. It's easy for you to say it, forget it and forget it? Just one sentence and you're trying to get rid of me who has been thinking about you for 5 years? Yiqing Luo had nothing to reply to his question. She wasn't the Yiqing Luo when she was 10 years old. They had also never personally experienced the beautiful memories that Zhu Wuxin had shared with them. She couldn't possibly recall the memories with Zhu Wu Xian. So she abandoned Dmo Xian and chose Zhu Wu Xian instead. The person she liked was only Dmo Xian. You want to abide by the agreement 5 years ago, to marry me. She looked into his eyes as she calmly told him what he was thinking about. Yiqing Luo was so calm that even she herself found it scary. I'm not using a sentence of forget to get rid of you, but the relationship between us is only fixed at 5 years ago, on that night when you left. Yiqing Luo spoke seriously. Young Master Zhu, before I had that memory, the person I loved was Dmo Xian. Even though I've regained that memory, it won't change my love for Dmo Xian. For all eternity, I will only follow Dmo Xian. Do you understand what I mean? He understood. How could he possibly not understand? Generation after generation, it also foretold that every day and every moment in her future belonged to Dmo Xian. Even in her next life, she would still choose Dmo Xian. She was persuading him to give up on her. However, giving up was easier said than done. If he could give up so easily, then he wouldn't have been so stubborn for 5 years. I don't understand. Yiqing Luo, I don't understand. Zhu Wu Xian's voice was hoarse as he shook his head slowly. The pair of hands which locked onto Yiqing Luo's shoulders gradually increased their strength. Yiqing Luo frowned in pain. Staring at Chu Wuxin's expressionless face, he felt a chill in his heart. She tried to struggle, but Zhu Wuxin's hands clenched even tighter. His fingers felt like they were going to sink into her flesh. She frowned in pain. Just as she was about to break free from him, suddenly, he felt something tighten around his waist. A strong force gripped her waist and pulled her back. Her back bumped into a warm chest. A mellow voice which was like fine wine rang beside her ears, as cold as ice. It doesn't matter if you understand or not. Anyway, Lil Luo is this Lord's woman. You have no right to lay a finger on her. A strong and majestic aura exploded at this instant. Chapter 15:10. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo turned her head around in astonishment. Indeed, the man who was hugging her was Dmo Xian. Her brows were immediately filled with a smile as she stretched out her arms and hugged Dmo Xian's neck. Ah Xian, where did you go? I've been looking for you for a long time. He hugged Yiqing Luo's waist tightly as he pressed her petite body against his chest, without any gap. The boiling temperature, through her clothes, was still scorching her petite body. At the other side of the foundation ground, Dmo Xian explained concisely. Following that, he raised her hand and his slender long fingers brushed past the profound phoenix ring on her fingertip. Silly, the profound phoenix ring and profound dragon ring can sense each other's presence. Just follow the profound phoenix ring's sense, and you'll be able to find me? Saying that, half dotingly and half helplessly pinched her forehead. Yiqing Luo's face instantly surfaced a bashful look as she stared at him resentfully. You're the silly one. You didn't tell me that the profound phoenix ring and profound dragon ring can sense each other's presence. Yes. If I'm silly, then you're also a silly wife. Dmo Xian replied to Yiqing Luo's words dotingly. In return, Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes and pushed him away resentfully. Zhu Wu Xian, who was by the side. His icy cold gaze was fixed on the two of them who were fooling around. His eyes darkened bit by bit. That big and small hand stacked together, the same patterned ring on their fingers. It pierced his eyes. By his ears, he could still hear their mutual understanding. Anyone could tell that these two were extremely in love with each other. What made his heart ache the most was, it was the moment when Yiqing Luo saw Dmo Xian. Her brows revealed a smile, as well as that deep longing. That was her true feelings showing. In her eyes, in her heart. She could only accommodate Dmo Xian alone. Zhu Wu Xian's fists were clenched tightly. His long body slowly retreated, leaning against the firewall behind him. His entire body's energy seemed to be sucked out at this instant. A loud dong sound was heard. The sound of a heavy object landing on the ground attracted their attention. Zhu Wu Xian. Yi Qing Luo looked towards the direction of the voice. Zhu Wuxin leaned against the wall and sat on the ground. He spread his knees and rested his arms on his knees. His head was bowed, his inky hair falling over his face, hiding the expression on his face. His body exuded an unapproachable evil aura. She pushed Dmo Xian away, and was just about to approach Zhu Wu Xian to help him up. However, Zhu Wuxin shouted fiercely, "Don't come over!" Yi Qing Luo's footsteps halted. Yi Qing Luo, since you want me to forget everything that had happened in the past, then don't come near me. Zhu Wu Xian's icy cold voice was devoid of any emotions. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips as her brows creased tightly. Anyway, to you, I'm just a passerby, just an insignificant person. He let out a low chuckle that was filled with bitterness. He's here to pick you up. Just go with him. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhu Wuxin only felt that his arm was covered by a touch of warmth. Soon after, the fragrance from the woman's body seeped into his nose. He was astonished as he raised his head. He saw a cold-looking Yi Qing Luo frowning at him. What rubbish are you saying? You've suffered such a serious injury and you're still trying to be brave. Do you really think that your body is made of iron? She didn't allow him to explain as she directly helped Zhu Wu Xian up. You! Chapter 15:11. There's one more sentence which you've said wrongly. Yi Qing Luo looked at Zhu Wu Xian as her gaze was calm and her tone was firm. To me, you're not just a passerby and not unimportant. Zhu Wuxin's expressionless face seemed to change a little. Light flashed in his cold eyes. He looked at Yi Qing Luo's eyes and was unable to shift his gaze away momentarily. That night 5 years ago I was already mentally prepared to die. If it wasn't for your appearance, perhaps I might not be able to live till now. If at that time Shao Qing Luo would have died in the cold winter, perhaps she wouldn't have the chance to come to this continent and become Yi Qing Luo. So to me, you're my salvation 5 years ago. Yi Qing Luo stared at his eyes as she said every single word. Salvation. Zhu Wu Xian silently muttered these 2 words in his heart. He was Yi Qing Luo's salvation? 5 years ago, Yi Qing Luo was his salvation. 5 years ago, I didn't abandon you who was seriously injured. 5 years later, I won't abandon you like this. Zhu Wu Xian had crossed blows with Dmo Xian outside the base of the blazing flame nest. He suffered a blow from Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian's attack was no joke. Later on, he was forcefully absorbed into the base. How could Zhu Wu Xian's body take it? Yi Qing Luo supported Zhu Wu Xian's body as it was a little strenuous. She looked at Dmo Xian. But she saw Dmo Xian's sharp gaze staring at her and Zhu Wu Xian without blinking. That gaze seemed as though he wanted to strangle Zhu Wu Xian to death. Yi Qing Luo didn't dare to let Dmo Xian support Zhu Wu Xian. Chi-Chi, she called out. Chi-Chi, who was nestled on her shoulder, gave an unwilling "awoo." Following that, it leapt onto the fire ground. Its tiny body instantly turned into a huge white tiger. Yi Qing Luo placed Zhu Wu Xian on Chi-Chi's back. Let's go look for Zhan and the others first. Dmo Xian suddenly spoke out. Chi-Chi, you lead the way. Chi-Chi shook its tiger head as it turned its head towards Dmo Xian. After meeting Dmo Xian's sinister gaze, Chi-Chi's fur immediately stood on end. It wagged its little tail and howled, decisively choosing to listen to its male owner. What you mean is... Yi Qing Luo returned to Yi Qing Luo's side and held his arm as she asked. Letting 7 lead the way meant, right now, they were going to search for the place where Chi-Chi sensed the summoning. Then look for Long Yunzhan and the others? Yi Qing Luo took a look at Zhu Wu Xian, who was on Chi-Chi's back as she suppressed her voice. You should have guessed what is it that summoned Chi-Chi. If he knew about it, I'm afraid. Merely a cripple, unimportant. Dmo Xian's chilly peach blossom eyes swept past Zhu Wu Xian in disdain. The minute he recalled that Yi Qing Luo and Zhu Wu Xian were so close to each other, His eyes were tainted with a gloomy shade. However, he still endured it. He was very clear about Yi Qing Luo's character. For her to abandon Zhu Wu Xin and leave with him, Yi Qing Luo would definitely not agree to it. The reason why he allowed his Lil Luer to take Zhu Wu Xin away was because Lil Luer and Zhu Wu Xin's words which pleased him. Especially now, Yi Qing Luo's action of distrust towards Zhu Wu Xin had pleased him. Cough cough cough. Zhu Wu Xin, who was lying on Chi-Chi's back, felt a surge of anger when he heard that. His chest instantly felt stuffy as he coughed a few times. Yi Qing Luo tugged Diamo Xian's arm to stop him from opening his mouth. Chapter 15:12. Chi-Chi was unusually excited. That plump tiger claw stepped on the ground, extremely joyful. The blazing flame blended with that pure white tiger fur, like a huge tiger treading on fire. The terrain of this route vein was complicated. Every once in a while there would be various twists and turns. After a few turns, 2 people and 1 tiger didn't know how long they had been walking for. The scenery in front of them started to change. Their field of vision gradually widened. It was indeed extremely wide. Looking at it, it was an endless stretch of land. It was a sky full of flames. The coquettish flames burned wantonly. The red magma kept rolling and boiling. There was no path for them to pass through. This lava was different from the flame path which they were stepping on. This was a sea of fire. The moment they got closer, they could feel the scorching heat, as though it was going to burn them into ashes. Yi Qing Luo stood at the edge of this endless sea of fire. Her fingers moved slightly and a silver coin appeared in her palm. She threw the silver coin into the sea of fire. That silver coin had yet to land. Under the scorching heat of the sea of fire, it was burnt into nothingness. Yi Qing Luo retracted her hand and exchanged glances with Diamo Xian. "Ah Xian, do you know what this place is?" Diamo Xian looked at this sea of fire. His peach blossom eyes, under the reflection of the fire, shone with a seductive brilliance. After some time, he opened his mouth. This should be the heart vein of the base of the fire nest. Heart vein? Yi Qing Luo frowned in puzzlement. It's equivalent to a human's heart. Diamo Xian's gaze swept past Yi Qing Luo's chest. That gaze made Yi Qing Luo instinctively clutched her chest. Following that, her face blushed slightly as she looked away. Speak if you want. Why did that woman stare at her chest for no reason? Yi Qing Luo restrained the wild thoughts in her mind, restraining herself from being overwhelmed by the male hormones that were released from Diamo Xian's body. Chi-Chi. Diamo Xian seemed as though he didn't notice the little awkwardness in Yi Qing Luo's heart as he turned to look at Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi was staring straight at the sea of fire, not noticing Diamo Xian's words. Its ears were perked up, as if it was listening to something carefully. A pair of huge tiger eyes that were dyed red by flames looked extremely serious. Instantly, Yi Qing Luo couldn't care less about her little awkwardness as she stared at Chi-Chi's tiger eyes. Chi-Chi, what did you hear? Chi-Chi heard it. The voice calling for Chi-Chi. When Chi-Chi heard her master's voice, she immediately turned her head excitedly. It's right in front. It's coming from the front. It didn't know why it was so excited. He only knew that when he heard the voice summoning him, this feeling arose in his heart. It wanted to find what was calling it. It wanted to clearly hear the voice that was summoning it and what exactly was being said to it. Right in front? Summoning Chi-Chi, right here in the heart vein? However, anyone who got close to this sea of fire would be burned to ashes. There was no way for them to cross. However, the doubts in Yi Qing Luo's heart had yet to be digested. Chi-Chi swept her tail and rolled up Zhu Wuxin, who was on her back, and placed him on the ground. Then, he moved his limbs. The huge tiger body charged towards that sea of fire. Chi-Chi! Yi Qing Luo cried out in panic as she took quick steps forward. Chi-Chi, come back! Chapter 15:13. A drop of lava hit Yi Qing Luo's trousers. Her trousers instantly melted into a hole. It even brought along a scorching heat. Yiqing Luo took a step back. Her eyes looked towards Chi-Chi's direction without blinking. Seeing Chi-Chi's entire body had completely submerged into the sea of fire. The enchanting flame instantly enveloped Chi-Chi completely. The boiling lava was also howling in anger. Yiqing Luo's pupils instantly enlarged. How could she care about the lava beneath her feet, as she raised her leg and chased after Chi-Chi. Her wrist tightened and her body was forcefully pulled back. A pair of strong arms encircled her waist. Ah Xian, let go of me! Yiqing Luo's face was pale as she struggled hard. I want to save Chi-Chi. If it rushes in, it will be burnt to death. Chi-Chi came to this world because of her. The second companion who had always been by her side. She had never treated Chi-Chi as a battle pet. Chi-Chi was her companion, her kin. She absolutely could not watch Chi-Chi get into trouble. Even if it was the sea of fire, even if it was the lava. She would not allow a tiger like Chi-Chi to rush in alone. Lil Luo calm down. Dmo Xian held her shoulder with one hand, while the other hand covered her icy cold face. Even if it was this scorching heat, it was unable to warm Yiqing Luo's icy cold body. Dmo Xian's brows creased slightly as he hooked her head and stuffed her into his arms. Lil Luo Chi-Chi is a sacred beast, it will not lose its sense of propriety. The struggling movements of the person in his arms gradually became smaller. He continued, You should be able to sense Chi-Chi's emotions, it is excited, isn't it? The gentle words beside her ear, like a warm spring, seeped into her heart. Soothed the anxiety and uneasiness in her heart. Right. She could sense Chi-Chi's emotions. When Chi-Chi sensed the summoning power and arrived at this place, she suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. It had always been extremely excited. Chi-Chi was one of the 4 sacred beasts, the white tiger sacred beast. It would not lose its sense of propriety. It would not let herself fall into danger. Yiqing Luo gradually calmed down. Indeed, Chi-Chi, who rushed into the sea of fire, did not sense any pain. The emotions that were transmitted from its body. It was an increasingly excited and surging mood. Chi-Chi, who was engulfed by the flames and magma, once again appeared in Yiqing Luo's vision. It raised its head high and let out a deafening tiger roar. That tiger roar was filled with joy. Its tiger claws kept slapping on the magma. His fat body was still rolling in the sea of fire. It was like a tiger bathing in the water. But this was all fire. Great sheets of flame. Huge clumps of lava. Chi-Chi was unscathed? She and Mu-Chi-Chi did not run into the same sea of fire, right? Could Chi-Chi have fallen into a fake sea of fire? Clang! Clang! A few sharp voices suddenly rang out. It was extremely loud and clear. It was as if it had pierced through the sky. What is that sound? A look of astonishment flashed past Yiqing Luo's eyes as she looked around. The voice seemed to be coming from all directions. It was impossible to tell where the voice came from. Dmo Xian tightened his grip on her slender waist and said calmly, The one you've been waiting for is here. She waited? Yiqing Luo was stunned. Looking at Dmo Xian's smile, which didn't look like a smile, his eyebrows raised. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up as a joyful smile appeared in her eyes. Chapter 15-14. In the vast sea of fire, magma surged. A huge shadow enveloped the entire sea of fire. Then, a dazzling light flashed above the sea of fire. As soon as the brilliant light appeared, Yiqing Luo felt that her vision was attracted by that brilliance. He couldn't shift his gaze away no matter what. Then it was a huge red bird. No, that's not a giant bird. That was one of the 4 sacred beasts, the vermilion bird. The phoenix feathers on her body were overflowing with light, as if they were plated with a layer of dazzling light. Scarlet red like flames. However, it was even more eye-catching than the flames. From head to toe, there was a piercingly cold aura. Flight of the phoenix pair. Cry to the 9 heavens. Sure enough, it was it. All this while, The vermilion bird had been calling out to Chi-Chi. Ever since Chi-Chi stepped into the South Tide continent, she had sensed this summoning power. Yiqing Luo made a guess. It was very likely that it was one of the 4 great divine beasts. The reason for that was because there was an extremely strong sense of summoning between sacred beasts. The other magical beasts didn't sense it at all. Only Chi-Chi could feel it. Apart from the 4 sacred beasts, there was nothing else. Clang, clang. The vermilion bird let loose another piercing cry. It flew down from the sky and tangled with Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi jumped around excitedly. A vermilion bird and a white tiger, loving each other. South Tide Continent's imperial tutor prophesied that a divine object would descend upon the world in the blazing flame lair. What he was referring to was this vermilion bird. Dmo Xian looked at that noble and elegant sacred beast as a trace of undecipherable profound meaning surfaced in his eyes. The vermilion bird. Why is it here? Yiqing Luo's attention was focused on the vermilion bird and didn't notice Dmo Xian's strange behavior. I'm afraid it's also because of. Dmo Xian took a deep look at Yiqing Luo. His words stopped at his lips. For what? Yiqing Luo curiously raised her head and looked into that bottomless abyss eyes. Her heart strangely tightened. Dmo Xian's expression was absolutely not happy. On the contrary, there was an extremely subtle trace of anxiety and uneasiness. What is he worrying about? Was he hiding something? Not waiting for Yiqing Luo to ponder, that smear of emotion in Dmo Xian's eyes had already disappeared. His thin lips curved up, and his slender fingers gently stroked her face. He lowered his voice and said in a hoarse voice, "For the sake of the white tiger, I found this place." Chi-Chi? Yiqing Luo frowned. Why did she feel that? Dmo Xian was deliberately hiding something? Did the vermilion bird descend to the South Tide continent for Chi-Chi? The 4 great divine beasts were the strongest divine beasts of the ancient era. Dmo Xian rubbed her head as he explained, 4 sacred beasts have been living together since young and have already been together for over 10,000 years. If it wasn't for an accident 10,000 years ago, the 4 divine beasts wouldn't have been separated. It would appear that those 4 divine beasts are searching for one another. Yiqing Luo nodded thoughtfully. Then, Shao Chen shifted his gaze to the Sea of Fire, where the 2 holy beasts were still entangled and crying at each other. The 4 beasts searched for one another. In other words, apart from the vermilion bird holy beast, even the azure dragon and black tortoise would come looking for him? Chapter 15:15. Indeed. If vermilion bird was here for Chi-Chi, it would definitely not be separated from Chi-Chi. And she was Chi-Chi's master. Chi-Chi would definitely follow her. If vermilion bird didn't want to be separated from Chi-Chi, it would definitely stay by her side. This was equivalent to forming a contract with vermilion bird. Just at this moment, Chi-Chi, who was in the Sea of Fire, seemed to recall that its master was still standing beside the Sea of Fire. It let out a low howl, and immediately jumped out of the Sea of Fire and returned to Yiqing Luo's side. Master, master, it's really it. It's really vermilion bird. Chi-Chi's voice was extremely crisp. Looking at Chi-Chi's joyful eyes, Yiqing Luo's face revealed a smile as she raised her hand and gently stroked Chi-Chi's head. Congratulations, Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi's head rubbed against her palm. Clang clang. Vermilion bird suddenly flew over and that arrogant head slowly moved closer to Yiqing Luo. Chi-Chi raised its head and let out a few excited howls. It seemed to be communicating with vermilion bird. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel it. Vermilion bird's red eyes swept past her faintly. That gaze. It really wasn't friendly. Yiqing Luo was a little surprised. She hadn't done anything to vermilion bird, right? It seemed to be the first time she met vermilion bird. Why did it feel like vermilion bird didn't seem to like her? Howl howl. Chi-Chi's voice became louder as it used its head to knock vermilion bird's body, as if it was saying something angrily. Vermilion bird let out a low cry and immediately went silent. A bird and a tiger looked at each other. The atmosphere seemed a little inexplicably strange. Cough, cough. Yiqing Luo coughed lightly and interrupted the two sacred beasts who were originally intimate but now created a cold atmosphere. Chi-Chi, after all, we are old friends who haven't seen each other for a long time, don't quarrel. Chi-Chi is not quarreling with it. Chi-Chi snorted. The huge tiger body immediately transformed into a palm-sized cat and jumped onto Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Chi-Chi is telling it that you are Chi-Chi's master. Yiqing Luo stroked its fur and raised her head to smile at Vermilion Bird. Vermilion Bird arrogantly turned her head away. It spread its flame-like wings and let out a clear cry. The surrounding flames flared up even more violently in that instant. Chi-Chi's tail suddenly stood up straight. Dmo Xian tightened his grip on her slender waist. Yiqing Luo's smile froze. Her intuition was right. This Vermilion Bird really didn't like her. He seemed to have something to say to her. "Hey, ugly woman!" A clear voice rang out. It was extremely clear in the silence. Yiqing Luo's gaze was fixed on the Vermilion Bird. Was it talking just now? It can actually speak human language? This sacred beast is one of the 4 ancient sacred beasts. Naturally, I can speak the human language. Vermilion Bird proudly snorted. You don't even know this kind of common sense. Why did Little White choose you as his master? Question: how does it feel to be despised by a bird? A. Vermilion Bird, this is Chi-Chi's master. If you dare to offend Chi-Chi's master again, Chi-Chi will ignore you. Chi-Chi glared at Vermilion Bird. Vermilion Bird turned its head in displeasure and stared at Yiqing Luo with its red eyes for a long time. That eyes were as red as fresh blood. Red without any impurities. With just a glance, one would feel as if they had fallen into a pool of blood. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly and reached out to stroke Chi-Chi's head, indicating it not to be agitated. Chapter 15-16. Vermilion Bird turned its head and squinted its scarlet eyes. It looked at Yiqing Luo with a questioning gaze. After a while, a disdainful snort came out of its nose. Vermilion Bird, you! Chi-Chi was about to jump down from Yiqing Luo's shoulder to settle scores with Vermilion Bird. Its tiny body was hugged by Yiqing Luo's arms. Yiqing Luo patted its head gently and whispered, "Forget it, don't affect your relationship because of me." Her motive for coming here. Indeed, she wanted to subdue the sacred beast. But she didn't expect. Chi-Chi and Vermilion Bird were close friends since they were young. Since they were Chi-Chi's close friends. Her original plan of coercion and enticement couldn't be carried out. Chi-Chi's companions were also people she should treat well. Vermilion Bird didn't like her. Then she shouldn't force it. Yiqing Luo threw Chi-Chi to Vermilion Bird. The smile on her lips was still gentle. Chi-Chi, you and Vermilion Bird can catch up here. I will go look for Zhan with Xian. Chi-Chi let out a cry of guilt. Chi-Chi naturally understood its master's character. It also understood that its master had given up the plan to contract Vermilion Bird. To be honest, Chi-Chi also hoped that Vermilion Bird could contract with its master. In this way, it could be with its master and not be separated from Vermilion Bird. But obviously, Vermilion Bird didn't have a good impression of its master. However, it was clear that the Vermilion Bird did not have a good impression of its master. It couldn't even count how long it had been. So long that they couldn't even remember what their former master looked like. Vermilion Bird's hatred towards its master was probably because it felt that it had betrayed its former master. Sensing Chi-Chi's depressed mood, Yiqing Luo gave it a smile. Then she meditated in her heart, Chi-Chi, I'm not angry, don't think too much. Master. Chi-Chi called out in a low voice. Yiqing Luo looked up at Vermilion Bird. Vermilion Bird, my friend here is seriously injured, let's leave him here temporarily, okay? Master, don't worry. Chi-Chi will guard him well. Chi-Chi answered first and then gave Vermilion Bird a fierce stare. Vermilion Bird didn't say a word, which was a silent agreement. Looking at the tsundere Vermilion Bird, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh. After arranging a place for Zhu Wuxin, he fed him some medicinal pills to treat internal injuries. Yiqing Luo and Diamo Xian then held hands as they left the heart vein. With Qi around, Yiqing Luo wasn't worried that Vermilion Bird would hurt Zhu Wu Xian. Moreover, she could feel it. Although Vermilion Bird looked very arrogant on the surface, in reality, he was just a person with a sharp tongue but a soft heart. Otherwise, with Chi-Chi's silly and adorable personality, how could she be so close to the Vermilion Bird? Birds of a feather flocked together. Chi-Chi's best friend was definitely not some cold-hearted beast. Not far away from the heart vein, Diamo Xian glanced sideways at the silent Yiqing Luo as he laughed lightly. No regrets? Yiqing Luo was stunned for a moment before she reacted and shook her head. No. Diamo Xian raised his brows. That's one of the 4 great sacred beasts, the Vermilion Bird sacred beast. If you were to sign a contract with it, it would be of great help to you. I know. Yiqing Luo nodded her head as her hands circled around his arm, leaning her head on his arm. But, as compared to help, I'm more concerned about Chi-Chi's feelings. So what if she used all kinds of means to make Vermilion Bird sign a contract with her? If because of this, it caused Chi-Chi and Vermilion Bird's relationship to become estranged. Chapter 15-17. You! Diamo Xian had a "I've long guessed it" expression as he shook his head with a doting smile. Ah Xian, this place is so big and the roads are so complicated, how are we going to find Xiao Yi and the rest? Yiqing Luo asked worriedly. Although they didn't sense any danger in the base of the blazing cavern. But Yiqing Luo had an ominous feeling. They didn't meet with any danger, probably because of Chi-Chi. Or maybe it was the calm before the storm. Diamo Xian said, "This is the underground of the blazing cavern and the area is about the same size. Although this place looks complicated and there are many roads, but it is connected in all directions. Just walk straight ahead and you should be able to meet them." Yiqing Luo nodded. This was the only way now. She was glad that she still had the mercenary group badge, which could be used to sense the presence of Yan Xiao Yi and the rest. As long as the range was within 100 meters, they would be able to get in touch. But their comfortable time didn't last long. Just as the two of them were moving forward based on their intuition, suddenly a deafening roar came from all directions. Following that, they saw 2 huge wild beasts. Their entire bodies were fiery red and their bodies were giving off sparks as they strode towards the two of them. Roar, roar, roar. The 2 wild beasts pounded on their chests as sparks flew. Diamo Xian protected Yiqing Luo behind him as his brows creased slightly as he waved his purple robe. A burst of profound qi surged towards the sky with an imposing manner as it struck the 2 wild beasts. Those 2 wild beasts hadn't even gotten close when they instantly turned into tiny sparks under this burst of profound qi as they fell onto the ground, merging into one with the flaming path. Instant kill. Yiqing Luo's eyes shone as her little hand grabbed onto Diamo Xian's arm. Ah Xian, can you reveal how high your profound grade is? Previously when Diamo Xian made a move against Imperial Palace's granny, Yiqing Luo already felt that Diamo Xian was unfathomable. Imperial Palace's granny's profound grade was at least Sky Mystic Overlord or even higher. But Diamo Xian could easily suppress the Imperial Palace's old granny to the point that she had no way to resist. It was enough to tell that Diamo Xian's profound grade was above Imperial Palace's granny. Then, how powerful was Diamo Xian exactly? Diamo Xian glanced sideways as a trace of teasing smile flashed past his eyes. Divulging a little isn't impossible, but what is Lil Lure prepared to use in exchange for this bit of divulging? That deliberately lowered and flirtatious voice. There was a hint of ambiguity in that teasing gaze. How could Yiqing Luo not understand Diamo Xian's unspoken meaning? Her cheeks were slightly flushed as she glared at Diamo Xian in annoyance. Revealing the profound grade, you also want to discuss conditions with me, can't we be happy together? Diamo Xian raised his eyebrows. I'm the first palace of Nirvana realm, the Imperial Palace Lord Diamoshian. My profound grade is naturally confidential. If you want to know, how can I tell you if you don't show some sincerity? Yiqing Luo was exasperated. What he said made so much sense that she couldn't refute him. Yiqing Luo bit her lower lip as she stared at Diamoshian resentfully. Following that, she tiptoed and hooked onto Diamoshian's neck. She pressed her pink lips onto Diamoshian's thin lip. She did it deliberately. The moment her lips touched Diamoshian's thin lips, she opened her mouth and bit on his lips fiercely. Humph humph. She winked at Diamoshian provocatively. Following that, she moved her lips away. But Diamoshian didn't give her this chance. Just at the moment when Yiqing Luo retreated. Chapter 15-18. Diamoshian's kiss was extremely overbearing. Their breaths entwined, lips and teeth intertwined. Just a moment later, Yiqing Luo's entire body turned soft as she leaned softly into Diamoshian's arms. His lips caressed her lip. His tongue stirred a pool of spring water. Those warm and soft lips were intoxicating. Yiqing Luo's resentment towards Diamoshian for taking advantage of the situation had turned into anger from embarrassment, and at this moment it completely vanished. This kiss almost made Yiqing Luo suffocated before Diamoshian released her. Yiqing Luo's mind was in a daze. Ah Xian. Don't be like this. Originally, he just wanted to take the opportunity to bite him. He didn't expect to be swallowed by him instead. Diamoshian's brows were filled with mirth, as he licked his rosy lips as though he hadn't had enough of it, as he laughed in a low voice. What about me? You? Yiqing Luo's face turned red as she gritted her teeth and shut her mouth. When it came to acting like a hooligan, she was absolutely not Diamoshian's opponent. She simply couldn't be bothered to talk to him anymore. She snorted. Hurry up and tell me, what's your profound rank now? Diamoshian's brows raised slightly as he slowly bent down. His thin lips gently grazed her earlobe. It caused Yiqing Luo's delicate body to tremble slightly. Warm air sprayed out. Yiqing Luo couldn't bear it any longer. Are you going to say it or not? Was it really okay to flirt with him at the slightest disagreement? Her heart wouldn't be able to take it sooner or later. Lil Luor, my profound grade. His hoarse voice was extremely husky. That magnetic teasing made Yiqing Luo's heart had a kind of numbing feeling. Yiqing Luo felt he might have been poisoned by a poison called Diamoshian, and she could not detoxify it. But this poison was instantly dispelled, because a certain man whispered in her ear, "Taller than you." Then, he laughed and swaggered off. Yiqing Luo stood rooted to the ground with a dumbfounded look. His profound rank was higher than hers? This was Diamoshian's answer? Yiqing Luo's mouth twitched a few times. Damn it. Dizun's tricks were too complicated. She strongly requested to get rid of Dizun. Wasn't it obvious? Could her profound grade surpass Diamoshian? Damn Diamoshian, how dare he tease her? Do you still want to live happily? Yiqing Luo expressed that she would make Diamoshian kneel at the door every day and not allow him to get on the bed. Roar, roar, roar. Just as Yiqing Luo was preparing to activate her cold force, suddenly the entire space reverberated with that horrifying howl of a wild beast. Then, on the walls of fire that covered the entire sky, there were many people. One by one, burning wild beasts emerged from the ground. Diamoshian, who was walking in front, immediately returned to Yiqing Luo's side as he stretched out his hand to encircle her in his embrace. Ah Xian, what is this? Yiqing Luo stared at the surroundings. There were at least 10 wild beasts, approaching them step by step. Her brows furrowed into a frown. This is a flame beast. Diamoshian's expression was calm as he looked at the wild beasts surrounding them, as he explained, "These are the guardian spiritual beasts of the blazing flame nest. They kill those intruders who trespass into the base of the blazing flame nest." As he spoke, the flaming beast was already charging towards him. A flaming sword emerged from the flaming beast's body. Yiqing Luo felt a huge breath coming towards her. Diamo Xian hugged her even tighter as he waved his sleeves. A horrifying profound light was released from his body. But in a flash, those few flaming beasts which had rushed towards them were defeated and turned into ashes. Chapter 15:19. The flame beasts are formed from the flames at the base of the flame lair. As long as the flames are not extinguished, the flame beasts will continue to spawn. Diamo Xian's gaze was grave as he looked at those flame beasts pouncing over. Let's rush over first before we talk. As long as the fire is not extinguished, it will continue to grow? In other words, if the flames in the foundation were not extinguished, would the flaming beasts continue to emerge and attack them? If this went on, no matter how strong Diamo Xian was, the profound energy of the profound jade heart would eventually be exhausted. Along the way, we haven't met any flame beasts. Why did these flame beasts suddenly appear? Yiqing Luo looked at Diamo Xian in puzzlement. Diamo Xian shook his head slowly. His expression was calm. However, his peach blossom eyes were filled with seriousness. The flame beast's sudden attack was indeed a little sudden. Ah Xian, let's go first, there are more and more flame beasts. Yiqing Luo also felt strange. But now was not the time to think about other things. The surrounding flaming beasts came one after another. There were more than 20 of them. If they didn't leave now, even if the flaming beasts didn't attack them, they would be burned to death by the flames on their bodies. Yiqing Luo flipped her palm and the glower flame fan appeared on her fingertip. Diamo Xian took a look at her but did not stop her actions. Follow me closely. Amen. Yiqing Luo gave him a smile. In times of danger, she could not always rely on Diamo Xian. She had said it before, she didn't want to hide behind Diamo Xian. What she wanted was to be on par with Diamo Xian. The two of them looked at each other. At the same time, his figure swayed. He charged into the flaming beast. The glower flame fan in Yiqing Luo's hand opened up, the profound qi condensed, turned into a bewitching red glow, rolled up a wind blade, and directly chopped towards the flame beast. The flame beast's skills were all related to fire. Furthermore, it was extremely cumbersome. When Yiqing Luo's wind blades landed on the flame beast's body, that flame beast didn't have any intention to evade as it continued to move forward. It raised its arm high and smashed it down towards Yiqing Luo's head. As he waved his arm, the flames on the flaming beast's arm became like a flaming sword. Roar! The flaming beast's enormous body moved on the ground, causing the earth to shake. The flaming beast was about to reach his face. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards, her charming eyes were dyed with an enchanting red glow under the illumination of the flame. It further complemented her peerlessly beautiful face, which was charming and enchanting. She spun the devouring flame fan in her palm, and soon after, the devouring flame fan transformed into a red tornado that flew towards the flaming beast. The devouring flame fan was like a spiral. As it spun, a dazzling light flowed through it. The red light was even more dazzling under the light of the flames. The glowing flame fan brushed past the flaming beast's body. Following that, it spun in mid-air and returned back to Yiqing Luo's hand. Following that, Yiqing Luo's 5 fingers nimbly flicked. A few silver threads shot out from the glowing flame fan. That flaming beast which was still attacking Yiqing Luo, suddenly split into pieces at this instance. Wherever the silver threads passed, a row of flaming beasts would be torn to pieces. Seeing Yiqing Luo fighting so excitedly, Diamo Xian did not attack again. Just following behind her, staring at Yiqing Luo's actions, constantly paying attention to whether she would get hurt. The two of them, one at the front and one at the back, charged forward. Very soon, they met Long Yunzhan and the rest, who were also killing the flaming beast. Gui Wu and Zhou Mo were by the side. Sister! Kitty Li was the first to smell Yiqing Luo's scent, as she joyfully struggled out from Zhou Mo's arms.